work this motherfucker. Okay. Check. Testing. 1, 2, everybody. We're back. And we're back. Okay. Can you see all my. Oh. This is my new crisis. Is I've got these new wrinkles under my eyes. I'm like freaking out. Because I've just had these bags under my eyes for like. Because of this fucking tooth problem. So I'm aging rapidly. My hair's like turning gray. Getting these wrinkles under my eyes. So I'm like obsessed. Because what do I have? Well, I guess it's turning 40. It's like a midlife crisis. Getting older. When youth is all you have and you've spent it up, then what? Then what, people? Then what happens? The rest of your life. Well, I mean, we live in such a fucking youth-obsessed culture that you're just not even a person if you're over 30. Well, this is something, the generational wars. I mean, people are just so obsessed with generations now. And as far as I know, 150 years ago, they didn't label generations. 200 years ago, they didn't label generation. It wasn't Gen Z. You know, what was the generation of, I guess they had names for the ages and stuff. The Glorious Revolution or whatever. Reconstruction, Victorian, what have you. Now it's just like everything is like, oh, you're a fucking boomer. Okay, boomer. Oh, boomer. Oh, it's millennial hamburger joints. Or, oh, fucking Gen Z. Just like I mean, maybe it's just me. Doesn't it feel that way? Everything is like generational now. And it's just like bickering and blaming. And I guess I kind of understand that because there do seem to be like pronounced cultural imprints, even like year by year, because of technology and pop culture and things like that, and world history. You know, being born in the 80s, this is something I think people are also obsessed with now. Is like, why do the decades not have a feel like they used to? You know, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, they all feel, they're like genres or something. They all have different looks, sounds. And I guess it's culture's job, or pop culture's job, art's job, to sort of define what the world looks like now, what's happening now, what does 2025 look like, what are the 2030s going to be, or I don't know. I'm in this Reddit forum, Decadeology, and it's actually pretty interesting. Maybe that's just why I'm seeing everything generations, but it's pretty good observation. It's pretty good discourse compared to a lot of the shit out there on the internet. It's kind of interesting. And defining when a decade starts. You know, this is something I've talked about a lot. When a decade starts, when a decade ends. Decades are like the 5-minute time limit. They're conceptual. They're they're subjective. As you are you know, the 90s really, I heard somebody say, well, the 90s didn't begin until 1993 and they ended in 1998. The 99 and 98 and 99 were actually 2000s aesthetic. Whereas like the 90s that we think of as the 90s, and I guess you could say that maybe to the 60s or any decade, maybe the 50s. Is it our job as generations born into this mass-produced sort of assembly line human beings, is it our job to bring our time period to fruition, to stamp it with some kind of identity, to manifest? I think this era does have a distinction, but it's so not different from reality. You know, it's just like everything is phones. The phone looks just like reality. Everybody's filming reality for the first time. I mean, things like TikTok videos, Instagram posts, Facebook, shit's not going to last forever. And it's just interesting that we've become the resource, people's personalities. And show business has actually become like the biggest industry or something. It's become like a cottage industry of just like normal people or influencers somehow. And so it's changing where people can live, how they interact with their cities. The cities are just kind of sets. They're just kind of props for people's get ready with me videos. There's all this discourse on TikTok right now about New York City influencers and how boring they are. And I mean, that's my frustration with a lot of vlogging or a lot of the new digital culture, which is sort of supplanting the monoculture, is there are like, if you're a vlogger, it's like every get ready with me video is like the same. It's the same vocal tonality, vocal fry or something, same kind of lo-fi, chill hip hop beats in the background. It's just like all of there are like genres of travel vlogger, like, oh, van life. That's but it's going off the grid. Oh, I moved to the wilderness for, a year and I vlogged about it. Here's my experience living off the grid or something. It's like they all kind of imitate each other and in order to please the algorithm, in order to get the god of the algorithm to have mercy on you, which I guess is AI or who the fuck it's fixed. Just like everything, the stock market, it's all fixed. The whole everything is rigged. The job market. I was reading these articles. The New York Times just did this big kind of media blitz of articles about Graydon Carter. One of my personal heroes, Graydon Carter, Vanity Fair. And he was the editor of the magazine Vanity Fair, which is sort of like, it's sort of like a combination of the New Yorker and Vogue or something. But it's a lot about celebrity, or at least when he was the editor. It was always in my house growing up. We never had a subscription to the New Yorker. My parents did not read the New Yorker, but there was always fucking Vanity Fair. And I loved it. I mean, it's pop culture, but it's like more kind of like high end or something without being, I mean, it's not Interview Magazine or it's not, Purple Magazine. It's not like super exclusive, but it's about Hollywood gossip. Dominic Dunn is writing about the OJ trial. They broke the Deep Throat. They revealed who Deep Throat was. That's something they were talking about. And but it has this kind of old, like he owns the Waverly Inn. Like Graydon Carter was the editor, right, of Vanity Fair. It was always in the bathroom, so I'd read it. That's where I learned about the Proust questionnaire, right? I'm obsessed with the Proust questionnaire. It was at the back page of Vanity Fair, which was a brilliant, kind of witty, I guess sort of like European. It feels kind of 30s or 20s. It's modernist. It's like a throwback to that era that I'm kind of like enamored with. The E.E. Cummings. It's like those big murals at the Waverly Inn. The kind of Dylan Thomas, James Baldwin, fucking George S. Kaufman, Fran Lebowitz. It's like this grove of these kind of like sprites and nymph kind of like artist cultural figures, but highbrow, serious, literary with kind of a Broadway or like a pop culture bent. Like the New Yorker or the Vanity Fair, it was mostly pictures. Annie Leibovitz, all of her kind of like great portrait series were in I just don't know if I heard some people talking about it the other day. Have you read Vanity Fair? Like, I think people are kind of waking up to Vanity Fair. It was, I guess, like a high-end People magazine, sort of in a way. It was all just about celebrities and things, but there would be writers, Salman Rushdie or Hitchens was a fucking big Vanity Fair, Christopher Hitchens. But then you'd have fashion, models, you'd have actors, Nicholson, Harrison Ford. whatever, Julia Roberts. The covers were classic, right? Demi Moore pregnant. That was Vanity Fair. Naked and pregnant on the cover of Vanity Fair. I think Demi Moore was robbed. I think Demi Moore is an icon. G.I. Jane, come on. Striptease. These were like iconic fucking movies. And she's great in About Last Night. She really should have gotten the Oscar. Disclosure. I think G.I. Jane. I mean, look back at G.I. Jane. That was kind of a groundbreaking movie in a lot of ways. Her body, the way that she built up. I saw this clip of Demi Moore on fucking Letterman during G.I. Jane. He asked her to do one-handed push-ups, and she does. She's jacked. Her head is shaved. You'd see her in Knockdown Center now, or PS1 or something. You'd see her in Bushwick. So anyway, but I'm kind of jumping all over the place. This is the opening overture. At the beginning you play an overture, it's gonna include everything you're gonna talk about. So anyway, like in Oklahoma, Graydon Carter, he was just this Canadian. Apparently he wasn't even a citizen until like, I don't even know, the 2000s or something. And he just kind of worked his way into the New York literary world when such a thing, magazines, right? It's really a story about magazines and print media. And the internet just kind of hollowed out everything. I mean, the neoliberal greatest tool in a certain way has been the fucking internet, because it's just like, we'll get rid of anything tangible, get rid of brick and mortar, and like sell everything on the internet, make it in fucking warehouses for nothing. It's all cheap, it's all plastic, and it's all shipping. Take advantage of fucking an infrastructure of direct convenience or something. Hollow out kind of the real world. The last thing we had were malls. That was late stage capitalism. That's why there's all this vaporwave, and fucking New York is just this kind of antique mall. It's just a mall from like the 19th century. And that's why we love it. We have this affection for malls because that was the third place. It was Easton. It was City Center. It was where you went if you lived in this kind of detached suburb. They took the kind of town square, they built a facsimile at Easton, and they put all the fucking corporate brick and mortar there. Les Wexner, Victoria's Secret, Hot Topic, the corporatization of punk rock, or just kind of like regional aesthetics, local aesthetics, the corporatization of mom and pop. It was like an imitation of like a mom and pop, but it's fucking the Rainforest Cafe or the Apple Store, or they don't sell apples. They sell iPhones made in China by slaves. So anyway, I don't know. There was this idea that New York was this place where there was social mobility, and you could be somebody like Graydon Carter just through your wits. He became this kind of elite. He had a townhouse in the West Village. He owns his fucking restaurant, Waverly Inn. He owns Monkey Bar. The Vanity Fair fucking Oscar party is like the biggest fucking Oscar party. They said this area in the West Village, this airmail store I went in, it's on Hudson. It was okay. It was like Sky Mall. If Sky Mall was a store, it would be airmail. It's just, airmail is just another word for Sky Mall. And his apartment's over there, and that half the fucking article is all about his kind of bougie, like, accoutrements and just kind of like furnishings, his tailor, his jackets, his fucking stationery, just all his kind of handsomely appointed West Village. And so they call this area of the West Village, which is really the best part of New York. I mean, this is another reason why I kind of like look up to, or I don't know, like he's a template in a certain, not in, I don't know, not in any kind of like direct way. But I mean, look at that. Our whole, it's not imitating him. I mean, he's trying to appropriate or kind of associate himself or aestheticize himself through, like I said, this kind of modernist or like the glory days of kind of like old New York and the little village and things when it was full of artists and poets and painters in Washington Square Park and shit. And now it's full of elite, power players, multi-billionaires, financiers, probably movie stars if they can still afford it. Sarah Jessica Parker, Matthew Broderick, .com fucking assholes who buy 3 old fucking cute little townhouses next to each other and combine them into one like mega mansion for themselves that they never even fucking go to. And they're all wearing goddamn North Face. And so it's been completely 180 from what it was. It's no longer a haven for artists. Now it's like, it's not even rich people that pretend to be artists. It's just rich people. It's like these people could be in Aspen or Sun Valley or Stad or whatever. Amalfi. They could be anywhere. And that's just another little lily pad for them to kind of like skip along. And I don't know. It would be nice to be able to participate as an artist. But in any case, the infrastructure is just nice there. And what was I talking? This government shutdown is looming. That's another thing. We'll be talking about Schumer, I guess, back down. He says it's the better of the two options is to just sign their spending bill, whatever the fuck it is. My fear would be if the government shuts down, it'll probably never open up again. Right? I mean, that would be their wet dream if they just shut the whole fucking thing down. Just get rid of everybody. I mean, Graydon Carter's not my fucking hero. He just has this insane lifestyle. He should make Get Ready With Me videos. He says he loves TikTok. Yeah, so for some reason the New York Times he was I guess, not that he's like some literary giant. I don't necessarily think, maybe journalism wise, but like I don't necessarily think Vanity Fair was like, it's not the New Yorker. It's not like a hard-hitting reporting. Although the New Yorker has become more like Vanity Fair when it's more about celebrities. There's more pictures. There's a lot of stuff about Anna Wintour in the articles, and they're sort of like playful rivalry or something. I guess she was sort of responsible for him getting fired. I mean, he stepped down as editor of the magazine in 2017. I think he could see the writing on the wall, not only politically, but just like economically, right? Like we came in on the last whiffs of this literary kind of like golden age. That's something he says in the articles. You don't know you're living through a golden age until it's over, right? Or you just don't know you're living through it. And maybe everybody just looks at their youth in that way, but I don't know. It'd be hard to argue now we're living in a golden age. But I mean, particularly for journalism, one of the things they talk about in this article is the expense accounts and just like the frivolous, almost like opulence of what it was to be in the media back then and to be a power player in the legacy media, in the monoculture, and to be one of the kind of like gatekeepers and make the fucking seating list for the Waverly Inn that night. And Clooney's going to be there and Ellen Barkin and fucking Fran and Marty. And who knows, Bill Clinton, maybe Obama, maybe Mike Nichols, maybe Trump. They mentioned Trump in the article, they're sort of parallel contemporaries almost in a way. Graydon Carter profiled him and shit, but yeah, it's not, they didn't have short stories in it. There was no fiction, there was no poetry, which is kind of odd looking back. It's like, that you'd think they would have had some kind of like creative. I guess they did creative nonfiction type things. That was, but it had a stylishness that was like. So anyway, yeah, I could see that with fashion too, working in the fashion stuff. It's like when the internet came and they couldn't figure out how to charge people for journalism anymore. There's been a lot of things working against the media. People hate the fucking media. The majority of people in this country have been convinced that just the media sucks. Journalism sucks. And so it was bad before when you couldn't monetize it until there was paywalls. It was the death of the newspaper. It was the death of print media, which was necessary until the smartphone, really. Getting a fucking newspaper every day, it's hard to believe. But even in the fucking 1990s, it was like you needed the daily newspaper and Time magazine to sort of like they function almost like TikTok and YouTube now. Whereas like the daily newspaper is full of these kind of micro immediate reports, and Time magazine was more like YouTube, where it's like longer, it's a little bit, it's once a week, it's bigger stories, it's national, it's a little bit glossy. So they could charge, a lot of people had fucking subscriptions to Time magazine that cost whatever, 30, 40, 20. I mean, you get subscription deals. One time I think I got a subscription to the New Yorker for like $12. There was a couple years in the 2000s where they had like some kind of insane fucking deal. Now I think the New Yorker is like, it's at least $10. It might be twice as much as that for all I know. And everybody reads shit online anyway. That was the biggest insult in the article. They talk about the new editor of Vanity Fair. They didn't send him a gift subscription, which is kind of fucking insane if you think about it. They sent him a digital access code. That's like a backhanded slap in the face. Here, you work for this magazine for 25 years, and here's your fucking CAPTCHA. You can read it on your goddamn laptop on your phone. I still don't really like reading. I mean, they talk about the death of literacy, but there is some truth to the idea that, like, more people are reading than ever. Maybe they're doing it in an illiterate way, but, like, the internet is still text. It's still about half text. Text isn't completely extraneous. Like, we still need fucking text. We still need text messages, Instagram captions, articles, even if we don't read the fucking articles. Like, text is still, that is one reason why it's sort of unfair that there's no way to be a journalist anymore, or an actor, or a fucking filmmaker, or anything creative, a musician, because it's all been basically stolen and given away for free by tech. Movies, music, you name it, journalism. I read these articles on a free New York Times bootleg in WDNYUZ because I can't, I'm not a subscriber. I'm behind the fucking paywall. And, so we're a lot of the Dime Square and the kind of like literary energy of downtown, it seems like it's wanting to be that. It's wanting New York to be this kind of like publishing city of these powerful magazines and money and fucking, what's that bodega called? There's like a deli that has all these glossy magazines. It's where they had that CoStar machine. Iconic. fashion and movies and literature and it all the art world, it all kind of meets there. I mean, Vanity Fair didn't have a lot of it. It would have things about like the major, like Jeff Koons or something. Or there was a lot of Julian Schnabel. I think that's where I learned about Palazzo Chupi. There was a lot of kind of real estate porn type things and Vanity Fair, and just like look at these people's interior decorating, how fabulous they live, but it was more about like living like, I don't know, an artist or something in addition to being wealthy. It was also about having style, and Graydon Carter has this kind of Anglophile thing. He's like sort of affected that he's like British or something. He knows all these like British words and fucking. He's got this kind of, I don't know, British tailoring kind of thing. Fetish. Is this thing on? No one is watching. Let me just make sure my fucking audio is sounding good and shit. Because last time I did it in this room, my audio was I was in an aquarium. And it was a shame because it was a good sesh. Let me just see what we got going on here. Okay. For some reason, they're burying my fucking streams deep in look, it's not even showing them. Oh, there we go. Okay, see, I had to like look for it. Look, it's not even showing. Okay. Them. Oh, there we go. Okay, see, I had to like look for it. See, there we go. Tripping, man. I'm fucking tripping here. This is primitive special effects here. This is the best we can do as far as technology goes. We're pulling back. Trying to get you high. This is I saw this thing about non-hallucinatory psychedelics. Okay, I don't know. Is that trippy or it just looks? Yeah, so I don't know. There's been a total collapse of those kind of like hierarchical structures and those kind of like monomedia things. Now we do have sort of like a vox populi of influencers, for better or for worse, who are coming into the cities and kind of like changing them, gentrifying them in this kind of like, I don't know, kind of hugely homogenous way. I mean, that's one of the things about tech is like it allows us to just pick up and fucking pull up stakes and go anywhere. Like if you're able to make money through a fucking app, theoretically, you can just do your job from goddamn anywhere. If you're just shipping things to people. And it's nice work if you can get it and be Emily fucking in Paris or whatever. Just jump around, be a digital nomad, as it were. But a lot of us are trapped in fantasies of the monoculture and things that no longer exist. Or, I mean, Graydon Carter, I guess, is one of the examples of one of the the last of the dinosaur of the giants of that century. The 20th century in New York in particular was this kind of like machine that just like produced these like iconic cultural figures, Warhol, Patti Smith, whoever it is, Bob Dylan, because there was this mono culture that was gatekeeping and could kind of I don't know, there were tastemakers in New York. There was somebody else that was talking about this Arthur Gelb guy. I was watching this interview with Arthur Gelb, was talking about he got a job at the New York Times as a police reporter. And that's how he learned how to be a journalist. And he sort of worked his way up from that. He was a theater critic. And I think he fucking owned it, the New York Times or something. He was an editor. He owned it or something. There's been the modern version of that is being an influencer. and it's weird because there is no like supervision. There's no like mentorship for that. It's just like, okay, you're 18 years old and you've got Instagram face and a fake tan or whatever the hell, cleavage, and fucking you just do dance videos or something. And all of a sudden you got millions of people looking at you. It's like you're not an apprentice. There's no cub reporter. And look at somebody like Andrew Callahan, right? Channel 5. That is kind of like, that's what the new, like, media that people take seriously is going to look like. And I like Andrew Callahan to a point, but in some ways, I don't really think what he does is journalism. I think it's like going out and just interviewing dumbasses, or just like he's way too sympathetic to the Trump people. And he was a big Jill Stein. I remember him giving Jill Stein tons of airtime. And I understand his impetus for that, but in a certain way, he's just another part of like the manosphere. He's not saying anything different than Tim Dillon or Rogan in a way, because he's giving under the auspices of like objective journalism and just going to the people and letting them tell their story, which is not a bad thing. I don't think that's like a bad, but that is different than like fact checking a fucking story in like the fucking New York Times or something. It's like the New Yorker is famous for their fact checking, right? Harold Ross, that was one of his fucking things that he insisted on. The New York was like legendary for the fact checking because it was so fucking anal retentive about everything. And they made sure to get things right. That is not a requirement anymore. In fact, the tech companies want to completely go the opposite way, where there is no responsibility to the truth whatsoever. You can say anything you want. And I think that is a reaction to the pandemic. They think that there was skeptical kind of dissenting point of views that were censored because they were fact checked, basically. But since then, people have had more and more of a sympathetic view towards those ideas, those dissenting ideas. We were right all along to question blah, 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 the lockdown or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. I won't get into it because I don't want to get banned, even though I'm already fucking shadow banned. I probably should put some kind of YouTube notification or something that I'm live, but it's live on tape. It's meant to be like pre-recorded and then go out. John Mulaney, Everybody's Live. Did people watch that? I didn't watch it. Apparently it was not that great. It's basically a live stream. It's basically like a dolled up live stream. I like the idea of it. there was some fucking article with John Mulaney I was reading on a free bootleg website, or I think it was Reddit or something. And Reddit is the new journalism. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like we're almost the same person. He said something about Hal Wilner. They asked him who he admired or something, who he'd like to hang out with again or something. And he was like, Hal Wilner, who was, I think he was like a music producer on Saturday Night Live, but he was also involved with the Poetry Project. He was on the board, I think. And I'm not exactly sure his relationship, but it's an interesting pick, right? He died during the pandemic. He died March 2020. And was one of the early things that you're like, holy shit, this is a real thing. And then he said something about Taylor Negron. They asked him something about, I forget, some YouTube clip he watches or some stand-up thing he admired, blah, blah, blah. And he mentioned this guy, Taylor Negron, who I don't really know if people know who that is, but he's in a lot of movies. He kind of shows up. He's on Ben Stiller's show. He's got a very distinct look. I think he may have been bisexual or queer. Um, I'm trying to think. He was in some movie I watched recently. He shows up in a lot of stuff, and he's always good. He's almost like Udo Kier or something. You know, he's maybe not that like Karl Lagerfeld, but like he's always like anytime he shows up in a movie, you're like, this guy's good. And he just has this. I don't know. Even as a kid, this guy like his vibration or something just like stuck out to me. And so when I was in LA last time in 2020, I discovered that he was like a Beyond Baroque guy, and he was like, I don't know if he did poetry, but he sort of did like performance art, and like it was, it was avant-garde cabaret with sort of like a literary bent, storytelling, or it was sort of like Eric Bogosian. I think he may have done characters and things. So it's like it's a little deeper than like stand-up comedy per se, but it's sort of in the same ballpark. Like I think he may have even been on stand-up comedy. He may have been on An Evening at the Improv. You'll see him on stand-up comedy stuff from time to time. Even, he's somebody who's sort of like almost like Sandra Bernhard or something, or Janine Garofalo, who's almost like an avant-garde, like performance artist, storyteller or something, just kind of cabaret personality. But they can also do stand-up and kind of hold their own. He's in comedy movies. I think he's in some National Lampoon stuff. So he's able to do like broad funny, but there's something a little more, I don't know, highbrow, or I don't know, dialed in, or there's something about it. Mulaney's kind of on that frequency, it seems like. He's really into Richard Kind. I, too, am a Richard Kind. I've always been a Richard Kind fan for decades and decades. He was another one of those kind of like background actors who kind of like stuck out to you, and you're like, who's that guy? He's Clifford's dad. And you're like, I don't know who that is, but there's something going on there. He's got a rich inner life. So that, I don't know. It was kind of weird because as I'm reading, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like they're obscure, but like I can relate. He didn't say anything about Taylor Mead. I don't know if he's discovered Taylor Mead yet. For certain people that are interested in stand-up comedy, poetry and literature is like an off-ramp you can get into to kind of like dial it up. I think Louis C.K. is even into like Gogol and shit like that. Like he reads real shit, I think. And thinks of himself in that way. But in any case, I digress. So the politics thing, I don't know. I guess, does it serve us to talk about it, or we can't get on with our lifestyles. I'll never have my Graydon Carter lifestyle because journalism is dead. Or, okay, so it's transformed, right? It's transforming into this more kind of subjective, which is kind of a bad thing because people are also losing their critical thinking skills, right? This is one reason why Trump is a thing, because people cannot really, they're always acting like, oh, well, he's playing 4D chess, or like what he really means is this, what he's really thinking. Like, okay, so he's tanking the economy, right? People are taking a fucking bath on their 401ks. I mean, Tesla's lost like $122 billion valuation. And the market has lost like literally like trillions of dollars since Trump got elected, which it's all part of his master plan. Okay. It's all okay. It's a sacrifice. It's like sacrificing your queen and your rooks, but you're going to win the game in the end. Okay. It's just, they don't see it. You're going to win with your knights and your bishops and your pawns. You're going to scissor them. Well, now what I'm hearing is, he's doing it to bring manufacturing back. The tariffs, right? The tariffs are really killing the average Joe the plumber's pocketbook. The cost of everything is going to go up. The cost of raw materials is going to go up, which, to be honest, is the world that his people live in. They're the ones that buy fucking, like, I don't know, contracting materials and shit like that. So they'll just pass it along to the consumer. But, the left wing, we live in the world that's been already out in a certain way. It's just like outsourcing. It's almost like worse than NAFTA. For as much as people talk about, like, how bad NAFTA was for, like, manufacturing this country, and that is true, the tech thing has been equally bad for any kind of, like, creative, like, media job, I guess you'd say. Unless you can become a influencer, which, if you are an influencer, you're sort of you're an employee of Instagram, more or less, or TikTok. They're the ones. Obviously, you can build your brand out into, like, your own store. You can sell merch. You can sell whatever it is you're gonna sell. But, like, your videos, you're going to be getting paid and monetized as an employee, sort of YouTube, of Instagram. You're working for the fucking algorithm. And it's just weird because there's some idea that majority rules, and the more people like something, the more people watch something, the better it is. And so we're going to push that, which I think is the opposite of what the monoculture did. Things like Vanity Fair or the New Yorker or the New York Times, it wasn't about, let's find the thing that everybody in the country likes and write about that. It was, let's find something great. There is a, like, specialized class of, like, connoisseurs, or I don't even know, intellectuals, appreciators, the cognoscenti, hip people, the bearers of the cultural fucking standard. It's like, that's all gone. Now it's like you got to film the dumbest people on earth and be David Dobrik or Mr. Beast and just refer to the lowest of the lowest common denominator, the algorithm, be PewDiePie or Trump. Trump fits in nicely with that cavalcade of provocateurs, trolls, viral content. A lot of times it's just it's sadism, it's voyeurism, it's things that, like, you should look away from, or, like, you would look away from. It's bad behavior, it's insulting people. It's, I see all these wrestling botch videos, botchamania, and it's just gnarly fucking pain. It's like, why are they showing me this? Like, because people will watch it because people are getting hurt. Like, that's not a good thing. There do kind of need to be safeguards, or playing at the top of your intelligence. I'm not saying that necessarily there has to be, like, exclusionary, intellectual, like, snobbish pretentiousness or something. The idea is bringing everybody in to the highest level, to the theater or whatever the fuck it is, to poetry, to Eugene O'Neill plays, or David Mamet plays, or fucking Susan Laurie Parks plays, or Eileen Miles poetry, Alice Notley poetry, or whatever it is, great music, great art. Art is not commerce necessarily. And so there was some protection, or I don't know, there were people who had eyes for talent or something, and they would find you and they would develop you. Now it's like, if you're attractive, you can get views. Or if you, I don't know, I don't even know, appeal to immediate gratification, soundbite understanding of everything. I think that's one reason why stand-up comedy has become so powerful, because it's a way of taking It's just explaining. It's mansplaining. That's all stand-up comedy is mansplaining. It's just another word for mansplaining. I'm gonna get up on stage, I'm gonna explain everything to you in simple, common sense terms that are gonna make you laugh, like I'm fucking Mark Twain or something. That's a best case scenario. More like I'm Anthony Jeselnik or fucking uh Bert Kreischer. I don't even know what the fuck Bert Kreischer does. He takes his shirt off. What the fuck does that guy do? He's got a story or something he tells about being on a train in Russia. That's his whole career. Well, the manosphere is a reflection of it's what you get when you say let the people decide. You get Joe Rogan. There's no fact checking. There's just Bigfoot stories. And it's like you're because the prices are being set by people who have no what it's like actually. They don't understand how much Larry Fink or Elon Musk or whoever it is, they think a person who works 40 hours a week makes like $200,000 a year or something. A year is like so worry or walking a mile in somebody else's shoes, grading a car who just sort of came from the middle of fuck the earth by his own talent, I guess is what you'd call it, or that scene. He started this magazine, right? Spot Shoe of, and it didn't even make money, folded just by virtue of guy saw Newhouse, who Condé Nast offered. He said he offered me the editorship of the New Yorker. They offered it, so Tina Brown got it. She doesn't. She's. It sounds like bullshit to me. I'm being really good at playing games, and maybe that is just another kind of fucking, that it isn't really a meritocracy or something either. Tech people control what gets seen, and it's right wing as fuck. They want to platform and content. It makes sense in the world for you. It's like part of the reason why Trump works and Joe Rogan works. People go, yeah, it's aliens, fucking corrupt. And Trump is going and like, you didn't release it and shit because of fuck you and whatever. Here's my playlist. Here's my woke playlist. Obama could like write for Pitchfork. His music taste is like so fucking esoteric. It's like crazy. He knows cooler shit than I do. There's no way I mean, I'm sure he has people, aides, and young interns and shit that like feed him that stuff or create those playlists for him or something. But he's way more contemporary than me. Obama's like into Waxahachie and Tate McRae. What is the Tate McRae appeal? I don't get it. She's just a hoe. I guess every few years they need like a pop singer like that. It's like she's just a hoe. Like Jessica Simpson or something. It's like she's just a hoe. That's it. She's sort of talented, but I mean, Dua Lipa kind of seems like that to me. Forgive me for saying so, but I think Dua Lipa was just all about like, look, this chick she's just hot. That's really all there is to it, and that's why you're gonna like her. We put these fucking Elton John songs and we like British discoed them up, and there you go. You're gonna like it. Dua Lipa, she's sort of like visually resemblant of the non-white majority of the planet. You know, you can see the culture they as they move into more of like a global market. They want cultural icons that are like a little more international, less Hollywood white American centric. You know, I think that's one reason why Freddie Mercury has been like really championed over the last decade. He kind of represents a lot of the new what the new century, I don't know. He's sort of is he Persian? He's like Middle Eastern looking. He looks like he could be from any number of places. He could be French, he could be Italian, he could be European, he could be Russian, he could be Middle Eastern, he could be Hispanic, South American. He's sort of white passing, he's not too fucking, but he's also gay, right? And it's important to be gay now. Gay people run everything. They're just intrinsically better than us. And his music is a little bit less. I mean, it's rock, but it's also got this kind of like sophistication and like harmonic excellence, and it's super well recorded, and the recordings are just kind of like perfect. So it fits in with kind of like the modern international jet set who, the Kardashians. He's kind of another just, rich people just travel the planet, and, white people never go anywhere. They're trapped in Lancaster, Ohio or something. They don't have any money. They don't travel internationally. You know how hard it is to get out of the United States? First of all, you have to get a passport. That's not super easy. At least not for your average American who just doesn't want to do shit. But fucking watch TV or whatever. TikTok, I guess, now all day. Streaming. YouTube. Hopefully they're streaming my live streams. If they have any fucking brains. There's a lot of truth to be found here. Yeah, and then a flight out of the country, first of all, most places don't fly international unless there's some kind of connection, probably. And then there's just like kind of an anti-elitism, it's like fuck San Francisco, fuck LA, what the fuck they're doing, homeless people. So yeah, I did want to talk about policies, shall we say. His academia is a big thing. Tech is a huge thing, obviously. It's just we also have these neoliberal systems that like allow them to just like exploit the fuck out of people and not really share the wealth. Like these tech companies are making unprecedented money off of us. They are using us as a resource. We are the product. We are the fucking oil. We are the fucking our personalities, our creativity. And certain people are being remunerated. That is the influencer economy, I guess. There just needs to be more fair distribution of the profits and the wealth that is created. There just needs to be a universal basic income based on your social media content. They should tax. Apparently, Tesla pays zero taxes. They get all of this money from the government. So you want to talk about welfare queen? Tesla gets billions of fucking dollars to build bad cars that don't work and kill people. And Cybertrucks. That's your tax dollars. Right-wing fucking idiots that complain about tax dollars all the fucking time. That's your money. It's going to him. And he doesn't pay. You pay more in taxes than he does. So you should be infuriated. They're the enemy. The billionaires. The billionaires. And they're killing all of us with these policies. They are literally killing us by everything's too expensive because of their policies. This right-wing free market insanity it's just got to stop. Because it's just not true. I mean, the bullies have convinced everybody this is what capitalism is. It's like certain people have capital. They're able to start businesses and pay the rest of us to work for them. And they decide who gets to keep the money. That is them deciding that. But that's not really how it should be. Just because they started the fucking business, it's like everybody should get their fair share of the profits. And so we should get paid for our fucking social media. I should get paid for this, even though only one person is watching. I should get paid for this. There should be some kind of like government rebate or tax break. That's how they made their fucking money. That's how Trump made his money. That's how Elon Musk makes his money, through these huge government $15 billion grant or something. That's way bigger than any NEA poetry arts grant that exists. And he's managed to con people into believing that he's the one that can lead us into the future. He's the one who's smart enough to build rockets and take us to fucking Mars and build electric cars. In a certain way, it's odd because the Tesla really appeals to a more liberal demographic in a weird way. It's almost like very much a product of California, where it's like it's tech, but it's also this kind of like environmental idealism mixed with like status symbol wealth. Like for a few years, Tesla was like the symbol of like, I'm a rich guy. Not BMW, not Mercedes. Like my brother's ex-wife's father had a Tesla. He was like this rich guy dentist that like made shitloads of money. He didn't have a fucking Porsche. He didn't have a Ferrari, whatever. He had a fucking Tesla because it was like a status. But it's also the pitch, right, is sort of that's an electric car. But it's like, well, that's the future. It's not gas. It's not oil. That was a reaction to the 2000s in Iraq. Those wars for oil and the kind of gas guzzling of Bush in the White House. And then the Obama years were like, let's do green. We'll build fucking windmills and electric cars. That's the solution. Not oil, not fossil fuel-based shit that's killing the fucking ozone layer or greenhouse gases. We need electric cars. So Tesla, the whole fucking con is like, this is the answer to our energy problems. It has a way of transferring the source. Instead of burning oil, they make a shitty car that doesn't run when it's cold and takes forever to charge. It's just a piece of shit. You know, there's no, I don't think making everything a computer is a good idea. You know, some things should just be like practical effects. You know, not everything needs to be fucking CGI. Some things should just be physical objects. And, you know, part of our society is so driven by efficiency and time efficiency and making more productivity. Just make more quantity, quantity, quantity. You can't spend the time to make anything. It costs too much. It's more expensive. There needs to be both. You know, there needs to be room for both. There needs to be a tax on efficiency or something that subsidizes the quality. You know, you can't just fast food every fucking thing. It's just not good. You know, like, time has set up a point where it's like there's no cooking anymore. It's like people need to cook. They need to learn how to cook. They need to know about ingredients and time. They can take time. That's okay. That's part of life. That's what makes life. It's like you fill it with things that take time. You don't just watch fucking TikTok videos all day that last 3 seconds. Like you learn to sew or you make things. You know, you make books, you make music. That's what people really want to do. What's free is the tech should be liberatory. The tech should be freeing up as many people to do that stuff as can. And during the pandemic, there was sort of a moment where that sort of happened. Everybody had enough money. They were subsidized with the stimulus checks that they could make stuff and they could become influencers. They could do open mics, record music, podcasts, whatever the fuck it is, become stand-up comedians. And they had time for their craft. And now it's just like they said they would be back to work 120 hours a week. But I'm sorry, if you're a CEO working 120 hours a week, that's a lot different than like a dishwasher or a fucking busboy. It's cool and unusual. Like, I think we all know, like, let's use the technology. The technology belongs to all of us. Facebook belongs to all of us. It is us. You know, we are Facebook. There wouldn't be Facebook without us. It's not like a Hollywood movie or something where fucking Jack Nichols or something. Like, we are the fucking talent. We should unionize against Facebook and demand some of the fucking money from all this shit. They should at least pay goddamn taxes. What is this, the fucking church? Taxes are a bad thing. You know, tax is like a low, like, fee for a lot of like valuable services that are banded together that like make the quality of life better for everybody. Things like safety, food quality control, fucking public water, public fucking sanitation, whatever, parks, libraries, buses, public transit. This is all good shit. You know, public infrastructure is good. Be more like Canada. To some degree, I feel like they have like a better public structure, so they have more well-educated, like gentler, kinder people. I guess it's cold as hell up there, so that creates empathy as well. The United States is not a very empathetic place. You know, all of that doing. See, oh, look at the libs fucking had a hissy fit because Trump fucking tanked the stock market. Because Trump, is like getting rid of the Department of Education with Linda McMahon. Definitely the exemplar of good leadership. The McMahon family, they're legendary for their ethical business practices and the way they treat their employees. They're definitely legendary and their consideration. Chris Benoit. Owen Hart. The list is endless. And fuck, we're gonna get this all from everybody. We're gonna get this all figured. That is manufacturing. Cat books, that's manufacturing. Blue collar fucking worker, making poetry is like manufacturing. That's construction as far as I'm concerned. Like construction worker, goddamn. 0 likes, everybody. How about that? I'm a fucking live streamer, man. I'm a fucking unacknowledged legend in the world. I'm a freelance pundit. I'm a linchpin of the New York downtown underground open mic community. If something happened to me, it would probably take a few days to replace me. That's the other beauty of New York is like it's so apparent that like you are like infinitely replaceable. Some people who will take your job, who work for free, who will do it better, they're taller than you, they're better looking, they're faster, they're better educated, they're well bred. Like I said, Lorne Michaels' assistants, they're well born. I don't know if they use the word attractive. They were well born, attractive, and like positive. Marcy. If you're rich, that's who you're trying to stuff with. People that want to like Wesley and shit. You went to Oxford, Harvard, Cambridge. Part of New York, right, is exploitation. It's not any different, but it feels like it's become more pronounced. The intern economy runs the city. That's like the standard procedure in New York. How you get on the ladder, you get an internship, probably when you're in college, ideally. You work free over a summer, and then they bring you on, and they hire you to like start, and then you work your way up from there. You have to work for free for a while, and you can't really do it unless you're subsidized by your parents, right? And so it's sort of another aspect of like the trust fund economy that powers this city now, which is just another example of like unequal wealth distribution. Like these people have too much, and so they're able to afford to buy an entire city for their children, and no working people can live there at all. It's literally, it's hard to live in 6 figures, for Christ's sake, low 6 figures. According to some people, I wouldn't know. And so this is something I've talked about a lot, is you have rich people imposing their ideas like they know what they're talking about just because they're rich. Because it's a meritocracy, they must be geniuses. Like, I'm the richest guy in the world. I must be a fucking genius. And I'm going to buy Twitter to fix it because I'm so fucking smart. And we're going to buy the government to fix it. And look, they're fixing the government just like they fixed Twitter by tanking it, by installing a bunch of right-wing fucking insanity, neo-Nazi shit that nobody wants. Literally nobody asked for. And we're all fucked, like Zachary Allen Starkey says. And so what do? I don't know. You try to compete in the influencer economy. It's like there are fewer and fewer places to make money. You know, if you got to be in a service economy or something. Or you make yourself valuable to tech people that like know how to program or know how to take advantage of people who program, like Peter Thiel or Elon. And what is his weird fascination with like Nazi puns? He made all these like puns on like Nazi fucking higher ups like names and shit. I'm like, this is like a weird characteristic. I had this line in my poem about how it's when the IT department runs the world. When in the 90s, we used to hang out with this guy named Todd, who was in the IT department at my mom's job. I think when she worked at corporate. I don't think it was when she worked for the state. I think it was when she had a corporate job. And this guy Todd, at the time, this was before like tech really took over everything, like 98, 99, 2000. And he was like an IT guy, but he was a super creepy weirdo. My mom liked these people because they have autism or something. I don't know. Women like that. I don't know why. They think it's funny or something. But they're so like amazed at like the brain, you know, like I wouldn't say Todd was like particularly smart, but he introduced us to this guy Ed. And you know, looking back, they were all like libertarian. Like I'm sure Todd probably has some crazy fucking opinions about the government now. He probably is MAGA as hell. But at the time, he was just this weird guy that you're like, oh, he's just in the IT department. He's just this kind of like, he's like Dwight. He was in office. You know, he's just like this fucking weird. He's weird looking. You know, like he kind of looks like Milton from the Office Space. You know, he's kind of mumbly. He had a daughter. He divorced. He was kind of sweaty, but I think he was like a computer nerd. I think he was maybe sort of a programmer, but he was like from the 70s. You know, like he wasn't really like some new Silicon Valley. You know, he was like some fucking nerd from like the 80s or something. When being a nerd was like stigmatized before they took over the fucking world. And but at the time it was like, you know, these people had no power. They were just like in a closet somewhere and you called them and they fixed your stuff, but they were weirdos. Now they run everything. That's Doge. You know, it's that mentality, this kind of like fringe lunatic. He probably was in the Unabomber, not that the Unabomber is necessarily. It's just a red flag, I would say. If anybody starts talking about the Unabomber, not that the Unabomber didn't have things to say, but it's generally it's like if you're probably a libertarian wingnut, you know, and you probably are like anti all. They were probably at January 6th. Let's just say that. Todd and Ed were probably at January 6th, and if they weren't, they were probably like stoked about it. They were those kind of people, right? But it's like those people have like jerry rigged our society and kind of like taken it over through this kind of like learning curve of like nobody else knows how to build these machines. And I guess, okay, in a certain sense, they have a power that the rest of us don't have. It's like they are building fucking computers that like can do pretty amazing stuff, I guess. It's just they're being used in the dumbest ways. You know, that's why Steve Jobs was so important. Because unlike Tesla, the dude actually did have a aesthetic sense and sense of design. He wasn't an autistic tech psycho. He was more like a Clooney have establishment, whatever, post-hippie. But he had one foot in the private sector, and he was a business person, definitely. But he was a visionary, and he understood design, and he understood, like, the flow of chi and feng shui and life. That's what these fucking autistic Asperger's, Elon Musk, Thiel people do not have. They have no riz. They have no charisma. They're not turtlenecked, charismatic leader visionaries. They're not creatives. They are libertarian IT people. They're the people that come and fix your fucking computer when something goes wrong because you don't know how. But they've leveraged that gap in knowledge to take over everything, including the government. And we're just supposed to trust them because they're so goddamn smart. They're just going to apply AI to everything. It's so smart. It's going to fire all the people we don't need and replace them with machines that don't cost nothing, except probably more expensive than a human being to run because of the fucking power drain or something. A human being is probably cheaper, actually. A goddamn soul, which is important. Steve Jobs had a soul, I guess is what you'd call it. Even though he's kind of a disagreeable figure, he was a stark contrast to the Silicon Valley culture now that has sort of overrun our society like a dark cloud and taken over fucking everything. It's like he was liberal. He wanted to be John Lennon. He wanted to be Gandhi. I remember those Apple posters in high school. Think Different. It was all like Jim Henson and shit. It was all artists. It wasn't like Ayn Rand fucking like free market. Let's overthrow the government because democracy is bad, and we need a endarkenment before things can get better. Things are going to get worse for a little while, but actually democracy sucks. And Curtis Yarvin is not Steve Jobs. The guy that runs Palantir is not fucking Steve Jobs. He's the opposite. He's a fucking psychotic idiot. And maybe people who are too dumb to know any better think he's a genius, like Elon Musk. If you're a fucking retard, you probably think he's a genius because you don't have any fucking critical thinking skills. But people that have been paying attention know that he's a con man for a long fucking time. And now there's going to be real consequences, unfortunately, to this guy's playing with our government like it's a fucking Tonka trucks. And so Steve Jobs, right? Like, look at the fucking iPhone. I'm doing this on a Mac right now. Even Apple computers, the priority was like, we're going to give you iMovie. We're going to give you GarageBand. We're going to give you creative tools so you can be an artist. It's not like, hey, it's Linux or it's DOS. And like, we're going to learn to program like, I don't even know, fucking, Ed would always talk about like snuff films and shit. Like he was like a pretty out there libertarian is what they called it at the time, which was just like, I guess you'd call it a right-wing fascist now. He was a gun nut. But our mutual interest was first-person shooters. That's how we became friends, is we all played war games on the computer. We all played Half-Life. I just wanted to play fucking Half-Life because at that point I was still a zombie under the spell of fucking TV and video games. But now, maybe not that different than now, but that was like our, and I this is something I've talked about a lot too. No one is fucking listening, but like the chat room. The headset on the first-person shooter is where like male culture has like fermented for as long as I can remember. Every time I went home and hung out with my guy friends from high school or whatever, they were playing fucking online. They were playing Steam, and they were, you were hearing the most outrageously racist things imaginable said by young children through the headset. And that was like the discourse. That was what they thought was funny. Like South Park, take away all of like the redeeming thought that goes into it and just amp up the racist humor. And that's the level of discourse you get on like online gaming. That's where men spend their time now. Even the tech guys who own everything. Elon Musk plays fucking Diablo 3 or whatever it is, supposedly. It's like, not that this place should be like policed or anything, but it's just like they should. Why are guys so fucking stupid and racist? Why is that funny to people? I don't understand why that's funny to people. Like, read Vanity Fair, you swine. Listen to fucking Graydon Carter, you uncultured prigs. Watch Frasier instead of fucking whatever, Shane Gillis specials, comedy fucking specials, which are just like reiterating what people already believe, their own stupidities, their own limitations. I guess people go to comedy to hear what they already know. It's just they don't know how to say it. Legalize comedy. How about you be funny? Comedy is legal. You can start to be funny any fucking time. You're welcome to start being funny anytime. You don't have to be racist or talk about butt sex to be funny. There's plenty of ways to be funny. Look at me. I'm a witty raconteur. That's why nobody watches me. I'm like fucking Oscar Levant. I'm like Noel Coward compared to these fucking tool bags in the manosphere. This is too fucking witty. It's too esoteric for the ignoramuses and the adults who've been playing fucking Counter-Strike their whole goddamn lives. Or I don't even know what the fuck they're playing now. They're all in the comment section waiting for GTA 6 to come out. And I love these people. They're my friends. I grew up with them. It's just, I was different. I don't know. I don't know why they like this stuff. It's overpowering. You know, I mean, some of these games are incredible. It's just unfortunate that it's kind of like politically fucked us up so bad. But I mean, that is the third place for a lot of people is Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And I think the US government likes it that way. They want men in these like war simulator murder fucking tanks full of racist, hateful, vitriolic. I mean, I'm sure they police that stuff a lot more now. I'm sure it's not just like some kind of free for all of just like say whatever the hell crazy thing you want, but that's all on Kick now. Didn't Twitch ban Dr. Disrespect, or Twitch sort of cracks down, I think, a little bit on people for some, but like Twitch, there you go. That's something that like, that's a lot of men have probably spent their time on fucking Twitch over the last 10 or 15 years. And like, I guarantee you, like a lot of the legacy media, that's not even on their fucking radar. Like they probably don't even know what it is, or it's owned by Amazon, right? It's like, that is the media, you know, is like, and God knows what Dr. Disrespect's politics are. I'm sure he's probably a fucking MAGA. All of the comedian edgelords are, because it's like, hey, I can't say anything anymore. It's like, fuck. Trump's funny, man. He's like us. He tells it like it is. He makes off-colored remarks about Rosie O'Donnell. He body shames Rosie O'Donnell. We love him for it. We want that in the Oval Office. We want an executive order fat shaming Rosie O'Donnell. On my first day in office, I will sign an executive order fat shaming Rosie O'Donnell into losing weight. Oh, she moved. She moved. She moved to Ireland. She can see the writing on the wall. She's like, fuck this. Trump is going to personally come for me. This is going to be bad. Because he uses her as a punching bag. She's like this easy target. And so all of his little sycophants, some guy in the Oval Office made some kind of Rosie O'Donnell remark. I'm like, you wouldn't say that if it wasn't for him. He said it first, so you feel like you're doing it to like appease the king and show that you're like him. Pathetic. He doesn't respect you for that. But it's hilarious, right? We're going to be laughing all the way to the fucking detention camp. Well, they freed Leonard Peltier. That's good news, right? Been hearing about that forever. Biden did that. He signed an executive order to free Leonard Peltier, okay? Trump freed Andrew Tate. There's a difference. There's kind of a difference. What if Trump just freed everybody? All the rapists, you're free. It's not far off from what his policy is, to be honest. Free all the criminals. They're all my friends. They're friends of mine. They were part of my campaign. Free Roger Stone. Free Paul Manafort. They should all be in jail. When I'm president, they'll all be in jail. I'm running in 28, everybody. When I beat the fuck out of Trump in 28, when I kick JD Vance's ass in the octagon. Oh, wait a minute. That's not satire. That actually happened. Zuckerberg challenged Musk to a cage match. That's how stupid the people are in charge and how limited their male imaginations are. Dude, MMA. Well, I mean, I guess Mamet made the MMA movie. Mamet's like one of the high elders of the manosphere, I guess. He was on Rogan. I mean, Glengarry Glen Ross has only become like this, like, text of masculinity and capitalism. And they're doing it on Broadway right now, right? I mean, it's like, it's all over fucking TikTok, or at least my TikTok, I guess. But it's become pop culture, like, knowledge, just sort of like Werner Herzog. 10 or 15 years ago, maybe people didn't know what it was, or it was sort of like more like a cult thing. Now it's like it's a household. Everybody knows coffee is for closers. Everybody knows that. Coffee is for closers only. You want to work here, close. That's basically what Doge is doing. That's basically Doge. Is Alec Baldwin in that movie. You're fired. Third prize is you're fired. That's the Doge negotiation. That's your deal. Third prize is you're fired. You want my advice? Take my advice and fire your fucking ass, because a loser is a loser. That's Doge. That's the Doge approach. It's fuck or walk. We got to have this crypto, okay? It's crypto or walk. We got to sell these fucking leads. The leads are weak. Don't tell me the leads are weak, Department of Education. You're weak. The materials you got, I could go out. Yeah, so we're all getting fucking Alec Baldwin. The scene is not in the play, by the way. This is an instance where I think the movie is better than the play, actually. Glengarry Glen Ross, the movie is better than the play, because the play doesn't have that speech. And the scenes are interwoven more, which I think makes it a little more interesting. In the play, it's just like, here's the scene with Jack Lemmon and the other guy. Here's the scene with, him and him. And then act 2. And it's like, in the movie, they're more kind of like intercut. They kind of save Ricky Roma. What a big man you are. Bile. Only thing coming out of your mouth is bile. Ooh. This whole place stinks of your farts for a week. how fucked up you are. It's a freeze of styles of masculinity, as I've said before. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a freeze of styles of masculinity. Glengarry Glen Ross. So Mammoth's in the manosphere now. He's a self-parody. You know, he was sort of like saying, isn't this insane? When he wrote it in the 80s, during the original Yuppie era, is sort of when that came out. Sort of a Yuppie play, I guess. It's sort of an 80s, it's like Wall Street or something in a way. But I think it's really about the 60s. I think he worked in a real estate office in the 60s. So I'm picturing like these Chicago guys. J&B double. Cuddy at the end of their rope. Going to a Chinese restaurant. Trying to sell shit out of their glove compartments. Living out of their cars. Or living high on the hog. Who knows? It's like Death of a Salesman, I guess. And they're all salesmen. Death of the Salesman. It's all about sales. I mean, come on. It's showtime, folks. You got to razzle-dazzle them a little bit in order to get them to buy your bullshit, in order to rob them blind. It's the music, man. Big trouble's come to River City. It's those migrants. It's those goddamn migrants in River City. Biden's just sending them all $10,000 debit cards. We're cutting the fraud and the waste, okay? We're deporting them. There's big trouble in River City. It's Train de Aragua or whatever. They're eating, you know. Gary, Indiana. Look what happened. Capitalism. So the manufacturing, I don't know. Like, people can make things here. Every hipster's got some kind of craft shop. That is manufacturing. You know, just knitting, making scarves, selling fucking hand puppets, selling, you know, like Johnny Cash baby jumpers. Everything in Columbus was like this millennial, like thrift-inspired, like kitschy, like handmade, local kind of like not a vintage shop, but like craft shop or something, you know, like they had, I forget the names. I guess in New York, they're sort of similar things, but it's like you walk in, it's like it's all these like little art items they made. That's what Buy Local is all about. Portlandia, right? Put a bird on it. Artisanal, handmade, local. That was like a way of combating corporate, homogenized, generic, big name brands, McDonald's, whatever, which Trump loves. He thinks those people are the winners. He thinks if you're a billionaire who started some giant fucking corporation, it's like, yeah, you're good. And like, you know, this little fucking boutique or whatever is just like a little piece of shit. They're nothing, you know, they're nobody. Your little poetry chapbook press or whatever. It's a vanity project. This guy started Carl's Jr., okay? He's a fucking genius. I'm going to make him Department of Labor secretary. This guy started fucking Carl's Jr., all right? It's over 1,500 locations. He knows what the fuck he's doing. We play golf a lot. Apparently, Dave Portnoy was offered a cabinet position, which is not a surprise. He turned it down because he couldn't run Barstool. I couldn't run Barstool. He's almost like Putty. If Putty was just like a fucking douchebag from Boston. He's from Boston, right? Couldn't run Barstool. I give it a 1. No, they offered me the cabinet position, but I couldn't run Barstool. I had to sexually harass my, employees. And just, he's part of the dumbing down. You know, he's an example of like, this is when public opinion, like, this is, maybe democracy is bad. Because if Dave Portnoy is successful and like popular, what's going on? How did that happen? There has to be some. Well, he was like a finance guy, I guess. So I guess he probably just he looks like somebody who made all his money doing like online poker. Dave Portnoy like literally has the exact aura of somebody who just like made a living doing online poker until they made it illegal. Or didn't they make it illegal? That was like a cool way to be an outlaw and be a digital nomad. You know, unless you lost your fucking shirt. Some people I know like ran up shitloads of credit card debt, like tens of thousands of dollars playing online poker. But I guess if you're good at it, you know, it was you could be like the hustler, online poker, and it was like the Texas Hold'em years, you know, it was fucking Tilt with Michael Madsen. That was so big when I was in college. Texas Hold'em, Jesus Christ. Who's that guy, Doyle Brumhall or whatever? Because it was all over cable TV. I mean, half the fucking shows on cable were like Celebrity Texas Hold'em. World Series of Poker was on ESPN like constantly. I don't think they should have been allowed to wear sunglasses. That really should have been not the policy. But in any case, Dave Portnoy, yeah. This guy clearly should have influence in our culture and tons of money. Clearly the meritocracy's working if Dave Portnoy is like a king of the influencers. Barstool. I built Barstool. Man. I built Barstool. I give it an 8.7. This is the best pizza in New Jersey. Philly has the best pizza. But the cheesesteaks are good. I'm Dave Portnoy. Long Island is the best pizza. Oh, I like Lombardi's pizza. Best pizza in New York, Joe's Pizza. It's the best pizza I've ever had. Oh, I love the pizza at Two Bros. Have you had Two Bros? I give it a 7.9. I give it one bite. It's one bite. You give it a number. What do you give it? Dave Portnoy. I mean, good for him, but like, what? Dana White, Joe Rogan. You know, they're like the Giants now. They're the gods. And then there's like the demigods, Theo Vaughn. People love Stavros. I don't like any of that shit. I've never laughed at Adam Friedland once. Or any of those guys. Who's the guy? Maybe I just have millennial humor or something. Nick Mullen. I've never laughed at anything the guy did. I don't get it. It's more a vibe. They just have like a cool vibe. So people like that. It's like, oh, they're stand-up comedians. They're sort of good looking and they have a cool vibe. They look cool. They're not comedians. I don't think. They're not funny. And Adam Friedland loves Trump. He said something about Israel was the only thing Trump's ever been wrong on. Or something like that. Gaza. I'll just do a few more minutes. Thank you for watching, everybody. It's probably Ashley. I realize now all the likes on my videos are Ashley. My reading from last week got 0 likes. It was a good reading. I encourage people to watch it. Being right, like, doesn't mean anything. People don't pay any attention. They never even, they'll never even be like, they'll never even remember. They just kind of go, I don't know. What about this? And then time goes on and you don't look back. Oh, my gray hair. I wonder if I get my tooth fixed, if I'll age in reverse. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like a victim of the overwhelmingly shitty culture Like I don't have a problem with the idea of influencers. I think it's great. Like I said, it's like public access on a like global scale, and we're all kind of like on one big public access channel. I just think the forms are what's so odd. Like really, how does everybody have the same podcast form? Where it's just like it's two people sitting in chairs with microphones and headphones, and I guess they just talk about whatever, and then they clip it and post their social media, or it's a talking head yap thing on TikTok, or it's a dance video, or it's like I said, the vlogs all kind of copy each other aesthetically to the point that they become genres. And if you don't do that, it's like, well, it doesn't feed into any kind of viewership, actually. Like you can make high quality videos that no one will watch on YouTube because they don't stylistically fit with like whatever the trend is. If you're not doing like now, it's like video essays. A lot of people are doing that. Um, and even with streaming, it's like when I see people streaming on TikTok, they're never talking. They're always just sitting there reading the comments, and they're not talking. They're like doing something else, their hair or playing guitar, sort of noodling around and just like reading the comments. It's like how is this person live streaming? They're not saying anything. They're not there's no content there. There's no content in that content. That's how I feel about a lot of content. It's kind of an oxymoronic word because like there's there's nothing in it. It's all kind of the same. Now everybody's like a vlogger of their lifestyle or whatever. Whether it's on Instagram with like these month posts where it's like, here's my month of 20 and here's 20 pictures, or here's my like TikTok about day in the life or Yap Sesh or whatever the fuck. And I like that. I just hope it. China seems to have more of like a design genius. That's why I think they are becoming the leader. That Silicon Valley doesn't understand. Like they're corrupting themselves when it's hubris. They believe their own bullshit too much. And Steve Jobs had like an ergonomic sense that goes into all of those products, the curves, the colors. I mean, he was copying like Swedish designers and shit from like the 50s and 60s. I've seen these TikToks every once in a while. There's like these products. It's like he spent time at the MoMA design store. Or like MoMA has a lot of that kind of stuff, like furniture, Eames chairs or whatever. But there's like these products. I don't know what the fuck they are. There's like some little Swedish like radio or something from like the 60s. And if you look at it, it looks just like a fucking iPod. Like it's white, it's got a wheel. So it's like, oh, they just ripped that. But it's also the functionality. Like I said, with MacBooks, thank God for Steve Jobs because he equipped us with like the tools to be artists. You could get Final Cut, you could get GarageBand, you could record music right when you got your fucking computer. Windows was not like that. It was hard to find a video editing app, or I guess if you took it upon yourself to like download that shit and install patches or whatever the fuck, it was no problem. But I was never very adept at that. I always found Windows computers very like awkward, clunky, glitchy. We bought this Duke Nukem 3-pack in high school, could never get that to work. That was heartbreaking because like we needed we called the hotline. How do we get this fucking thing to work? We need to like download a patch. Couldn't figure out how to get it to work because you need to do a bunch of like computer programmer shit where it's like, oh, it needs to be in this directory, you idiot. It needs to be in C : // home / users / files / downloads / you fucking moron. God, you're such a fucking tool. You're such a bitch. You don't know anything. That's how they took over the world. Apple, there's none of that. It's just all there. You just click it, boom, it works. You download it, it works. There's no fucking viruses. You don't need Norton antivirus or McAfee or any of that shit. Your computer's not going to get genital warts like every fucking PC in the world. Just like boom, boom, boom. All these windows pop up, and you're just trying to look at, well, I won't go into that, but we know what everybody looks at on the internet. We know what people use the internet for 60% of the time. So anyway, we're all fucked, and it's the tech people's fault. There just needs to be more. There needs to be some kind of like guiding. There needs to be more, and that was my hope when I came back to New York. Is like tech is just so arrogant in the way that they just run their own culture. The way that they've changed all these cities, San Francisco, New York, LA, anywhere, Austin, Columbus. It's like they've totally reformatted and renovated all of the cities in the ugliest ways. I mean, all these cities used to be pretty interesting, full of interesting people that have been completely erased and banished because it's too expensive because of goddamn tech wealth and the reallocation of dollars from every goddamn place into places with attractive lifestyles and jobs, Google headquarters and shit. And they don't even pay taxes. Google doesn't pay taxes. Tesla doesn't pay taxes. They get tax breaks and shit. And so they've just had the kind of run of the land for too long because it's like that's the race. The promise is all in tech. The future is all in tech. It's all in AI. It's all in. That's what they've managed to convince us. It's like that's the only future. It's just like computers are going to be involved in everything. Everything's going to be a smart phone. You're going to Bluetooth everything. There's going to be no more like practical effects. There's going to be no more like tangibility. It's all just going to be like on a fucking screen or a VR headset or a fucking chip or whatever the hell they want. It's like that's why the state of our physical reality is in such ruin, because there's absolutely been no priority on that. There's been no priority on like intelligent design, forgive my expression, in these cities. It's all just been like, let's build ugly condo towers for money laundering that sort of look like computers or something. They look like giant screens. They'll appeal to that imagination. They'll appeal to these young people with tech jobs that are moving to the Lower East Side or Williamsburg or Greenpoint or you name it. At this point, fucking Gowanus. It's like the headquarters of Vimeo, the headquarters of fucking Genius, the headquarters of fucking, they have Spotify people here. It's like they are all here. They all have business in New York. Somebody was saying about San Francisco, it used to have interesting people, people with clown stores and fucking, there used to be all these interesting shops, magic shops and weird mime troupe and shit. It's like, that's all gone. All of that kind of local flavor and character and texture, it's been kind of like smoothed over with this kind of like banal digital surface, like that giant building on Astor Place. That was kind of famous when it went in. It's IBM, right? It went in right on St. Mark's across from the Continental. It's this giant Borg. It's just a big silver. It looks like the T-1000. It looks like it's made out of the same shit as the T-1000. It's Terminator 2. It's what's that company in Terminator 2, Infodyne or whatever? It's totally that. Right on St. Mark's Place, right in the middle of, downtown art culture, and just boom, like a bomb out from that. And so now we're sort of a tribute to the glory days. We're little ants trying to subsist on nothing, literally nothing. We have less vacation days than a medieval peasant. It's worse than the French Revolution. And somehow we're still making it work as little rats in the holes in the wall. even though the big people want to exterminate us, the billionaires. They hate, like Chappelle. Chappelle is really the mouthpiece of the billionaires. Remember when he brought Elon Musk on stage? Because he's rich. Remember he had that joke about how he hates poor people. That's why I hate poor people, because they're so identified with their own suffering. Yeah, it's like, because we are suffering. We're not on a yacht in fucking, the Mediterranean. We're not eating fucking expensive food every goddamn meal and traveling on private jets. Have you flown Spirit Airlines? Have you taken the Chinatown bus, Dave Chappelle, in the last 30 fucking years? I doubt it. You're buddies with Elon Musk. You've probably been eating fucking steak and sushi and fucking going to Europe and shit. We're just going to keep going, folks. I mean, this is just too good. This is just too hot. I'm going to go a little bit longer anyway. I want to check in and thank you for watching. So, I don't know. There needs to be some kind of, and it's actually going to get worse. That's the most fucked up part, is like the two polar ends should be coming together, between the ultra wealthy and the poor. Those things should be coming together because it's better for everybody. See, that's what people don't understand about voting, is it's strategic. You're not voting for the person because you love their fucking policies. You're not even endorsing their policies. It's more just like, if the right candidate if the Democrat gets in, our lives are going to get a little better. A little better. They're not going to get worse. When the Republican gets in, it's going to get worse. When Bush got in, it got worse. When Trump got in, it got worse. When Obama got in, when Biden got in, it was almost like a relief. It's like, oh my God, the pressure's off. Like, finally, they fucking took the knife out. We can heal a little bit. And then, right back in. But if they get a little better, I don't know. It's weird because it should have the opposite effect. If they get a little better, people should get smarter, and it should get a little more better. And then it should get a little more better. But it's like the opposite happened. I think people got a little bit smarter, and then they got spoiled, and they went, well, wait a minute, Bernie's actually the better choice. Why don't we vote for him? And to be honest, what he was promising was kind of pie in the sky. People want to be idealistic, and they have every right to be, but there are reasons why these systems are in fucking place. Like, okay, the United States had 750 military bases all over the world, but there were fucking reasons why. There weren't just like, there was corruption within that. We were bombing people in the Middle East to get their fucking oil. That is bad. But like, they were trying to prevent everybody from getting nuclear weapons and creating a stable peace after catastrophic world wars. And for better or for worse, that peace did last until now. And, stability, nothing is ideal. Look around you. Look at your life. It's like everything is like kind of compromised and less than your I don't know. Maybe I'm manifesting wrong. Maybe it's my fault. I need to manifest better. But it's like, things could be a lot better. And they do. Look at when they get better. They get better when Democrats are in power. They get worse if you just look at it. They give tax cuts to rich people. The deficit explodes, and usually we get involved in some kind of war. If you just look at the facts over our lifetime and not the bullshit campaign rhetoric, that's generally what happens. I pay attention to these things. Like, now it's you're not cool if you're liberal. It's like, if you're a liberal, it's like, you're just as bad as them. You're just part of the fucking, I'm a leftist, and that's all they'll accept. We will not vote. We're never Kamala. And I think that's a strategy by the right wing, you know? There needs to be changed. I'm not really an accelerationist about it. I think that something happened in the 70s and 80s where people fell for the narrative that like Republicans go in and cut the waste. That's what they always say. That's what Reagan ran on. That's what saying smaller government. That's the same fucking thing. Same thing. Drain the swamp. It's all the same fucking thing. And they don't do it. Things just get more bloated and more corrupt. And they people don't understand that tax cuts are like government spending. It's just like you're spending that money by giving it to rich people. They're not getting rid of our taxes. Those people don't even pay anything. Tesla doesn't even pay anything. Amazon doesn't even pay anything. They have good accountants that get them out of that. Now they realize that just like, oh, it's even better just buy the government. We'll just get rid of the taxes altogether. Buy the Republican Party. And we'll just get them to give us tax cuts for forever and just more and more and more tax cuts. And we'll sell this narrative like, well, it's supply side economics. And if we get more money, we'll reinvest it. It'll be good for business. Like business, the economy is the most important thing. It's just like there needs to be a complete reorientation of like our priorities and what has value in our lives. Like having a job is not necessarily the most important thing. Growth is not necessarily the most important thing. Quality of life is the most important thing. And providing like a good life to the most people, that should be the goal. And people will make things. People will be motivated to make things. Right now, what we have is not competition or free market. We have monopolies in every instance. Tesla is like a monopoly. Google is a monopoly. Amazon is a monopoly. Facebook is a monopoly. Like there's no other Facebook. There's no other Instagram. There's no other Google. There's no other Apple. Like they're all fucking monopolies. They're giant, giant, giant organizations. And there's certain things that they're capable of, I suppose, by having that size or conglomeration of talent or something. And they attract talent because they have money, I guess. But I think, what we're seeing now is just like everybody's standard of living has become completely unraveled. And the answer for certain people is jobs, manufacturing, and consumer economy. I heard this guy talking about, United States is not a manufacturing economy now, it's a consumer economy. And that's what they're trying to reverse, supposedly, through the tariffs and whatnot. They outsourced all the jobs and they want to bring the jobs back. And so they're going to force people to do it. And I just don't know if it's definitely not possible without paying the workers more because, part of the reasons why they exported the jobs was because those people were exploitable. They could pay somebody in Vietnam or South America or wherever, China, nothing. They could hide it. They could other the people through racism, through imperialism. So it didn't really matter what happened to them. The workers in the Chinese warehouses who make the iPhones committing suicide and shit because they live in this nightmare where they have to work all the fucking time and they're slaves. But China has been smart about the way that they've leveraged their economic boom into something that I think is better for everybody. I guess, I don't know. That's my understanding of it, is that everybody in China's got a house. I don't think they have a homelessness problem there. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's propaganda. But just from what I see on the Chinese propaganda app, China just looks like they're investing in their country and they're advancing their country in a way that I just don't think they want in America. I think there has been a concerted effort on business's part. Like people always blame the CIA, but like the CIA was working on behalf of business. It wasn't really just like, yeah, we're going to do this because we want to fuck with this country. It was like, no, we want to do this so United Fruit Company can make shitloads of money because they have socialism in Chile and we don't want that because it's too expensive for us. We can, rich people in America can have more money if those people have no rights and we can exploit them. So we're going to go in and overthrow their government. Yes, the CIA did that, but they were doing it on behalf of corporations and of business. And so it's not the only thing the fucking CIA ever did. And I think they just want to do that to America now, right? America's the biggest cash cow of all. They see how much money they've made. It's shock doctrine to some degree. It's just now they saw how much money they made during the pandemic with the stimulus and the wealth transference upward from that, and how much richer they all. I mean, that's one reason why Tesla got so fucking rich, because everybody invested their stimulus money into buying fucking stock and shit. And so the value just exploded, making him the richest guy in the world, by far. And that's a wealth transference, from the government, writing a check, and it somehow it's capital allocation. There was this interview where Elon Musk talks about he thinks he's better at capital allocation than the government. It's a shrewd way of saying he should have all the money. The government is irresponsible. He's saying he would spend it better. He's basically siphoning all of the money out of the public coffers into his private account, so because he thinks he will be better with it because he's a super genius. That's what he thinks in his head. He will be better at capital allocation. The government is too irresponsible. There's too much waste. There's too much fraud. I think he does believe that. But he's also on ketamine and has fucking autism, and he was beaten up every day of his fucking life growing up in a racist apartheid state, and his parents were Nazi refugees. So he's got a dysmorphic view of reality. He's unprecedentedly wealthy and powerful person. And he's disgusting. He's got 14 children. It's just gross. So it's a mixture of revenge and utopian corruption. He saw that, oh, wait a minute, if I can get $15 billion from the government for a grant, why not, $1 trillion? And so that's kind of what's happening here. I think with Russia, right, when Russia collapsed, people like Putin, this is why I think the discourse about Russia is wrong, because it's not Russia that we hate. It's Putin. Russia, I remember in the 90s, maybe I was young and naive, but they were sort of like our ally. I remember Clinton on stage with Boris Yeltsin, and Boris Yeltsin, he was sort of like in fucking Florida, and all of a sudden 9/11 happens. It's like, I think they wanted to blow the charges on the liberal state, not the neoliberal state. The neoliberal is something else. They wanted to destroy the FDR government, Social Security, all the public works. The entitlements. Because business people know how much money they can make. They know how much money they can make if they get rid of the unions. If they turn America into a quote unquote third world country, they understand they'll make a lot more money. They don't have to pay you a living wage. You know, they don't have to pay enough for you to have a family or a second house and a boat. You know, everybody from the fucking silent generation or whatever, the greatest generation, they all had a boat house and a fucking boat. You know, my stepdad's dad worked for Ford on an assembly line. He was in a union in Cleveland, right? The Rust Belt. He was able to afford a nice home in Parma, a quiet suburb with a garage, backyard, basement, furnished basement, pool table, shag carpet, wood paneling, Venetian dining room, Entenmann's fucking pastries and shit, and a fucking house on Lake Erie with a fucking boat. You know, nothing like ostentatious, but like nice. If you lived in it now, you'd be like, fuck. I got a fucking lake house I like that I only go to like 40 days a year tops. Hell yeah, I love Ronald Reagan. Give me more. Give me more. You know, once again, it's like a hubris thing. They just thought, oh, we must be so good in business. I want to keep more of my own money. Give me my money back. Cut taxes. So they fell for the old cut taxes, the old read my lips. No new taxes. And a tax is just like a surcharge to live in the greatest country on earth. You know, you should have to pay to live in America, God damn it. It should be worth paying for. It was. Until they stripped it for parts and ran up a huge tab on the bill on the tab. Like in the fucking Sopranos, like what they did to the T-1000 in Sopranos. Robert Patrick. They blew out the joint. They ruined him, you know? They ruined him. They ruined his life. Doesn't he kill himself? So there's going to be a lot of Americans who are going to be facing a dead end. You know, there's going to be a lot of suffering, and there's going to be a lot of people who have no way out. And what are they going to do? They're going to do more drugs. They're going to self-medicate. They're going to turn to violence, perhaps. Or they'll just die. You know, they'll just do opioids so they die. Greatest country. And they'll vote for Trump because he's funny. And he gives them that high that they like, you know. Scaring the shit out of people. You know, I mean, that's something that's always been peculiar to me in my lifetime. And like, you know, the 24-hour news was a big part of it. Is like people do get addicted to like bad news or breaking news. That, you know, the 24-hour news cycle sort of capitalize on that, where like everything has to be a fucking crisis. And then Trump is just like this human crisis, you know, so he could manufacture crisis. So now people have something to talk about and they have viral content all the time. But it's like, it's a natural human inclination to, it's like seeing a car wreck or seeing a fight or something. It's like you can't look away. It's just like it's almost like a survival thing. You need to see it because you're like I was on the train the other night and I had the nice seat by the window, the orange cars, the orange seats, and I'm looking out the window and all of a sudden I hear this like pissing sound. It was very clearly pissing. I knew immediately it was pissing. And so I look over real fast and there's a person, I don't know if they had a house or not, I'm not going to presume, but they were like bent over and they were like pissing a stream, a yellow stream, like a thick Mountain Dewy piss. But almost like a fountain. Like it was almost like a straight, like in the air on the subway train. And I immediately got up and was just like, hell no, I'm out. And I went to the other car. I didn't stay to watch, but, I don't know. There's a natural human curiosity about that kind of thing. I don't know if that's good or bad. Watching, you know, like wrestling. The whole thing about wrestling is it's sort of like staged violence. It's an imitation of like watching a fight. It's like humans. I don't know. They get that's like maybe our baser instinct, but it plays well on the internet. And now it's like, well, you can't police people's speech on the internet or whatever. You can say whatever you want or Trump is like a provider of that kind of shock and that kind of like I think for most of my lifetime, Americans have been like so detached and like we did live up until it took a couple decades after 9/11, I think, for people to realize like how bad things had gotten and we were no longer like the greatest country in the world and all this number one and everything like they had told us all our lives. Like we'd actually been left behind in so many different aspects, and partially that is because America spends so much on defense that we protected a lot of countries that could afford to spend money on social welfare programs. Countries in Europe could afford to spend money on healthcare and education and blah blah free education, but they were also smart enough to do it, or like they had been humbled enough after World War II, I guess, to do it. And it was sort of our bulwark against communism or something that was important to us. We believed in freedom, democracy, and that included business, but like there was equality within business. It wasn't just like a free for all and fuck over whoever you can and get yours. And there was like an egalitarian society that had built up in America through socialism. And I think they probably look at America and FDR's policies, these right-wing CIA types, as sort of like the biggest socialist country. America is like spends so much money on healthcare, so much money on welfare, but they got rid of that too for a large extent. And they just look like that's a big piggy bank they can break. That's, Social Security, that's a lot of money for us to have for nothing, to just take from people. Like robbing a bank. The government is sort of a bank. You put money in and, it seemed like the government programs of the post-war era, things like rent control, welfare, It was a good thing for the culture. They understood the value of the culture. That was part of what like US aid was about. Just like general well-being is important, investing in that. It's not all about investing in defense and security, like investing in uh an economy that like will provide a place for like uh poetry to exist, or rock and roll to exist, or you can get a welfare check. You can have an apartment that costs $20 a month, and you can write, you can do whatever, you can hang out, you can go to the cafe, you can talk with your friends, you can meet people, you can have whatever it is, you can hitchhike. Uh, they wanted, if you watch some of these old movies, there's almost like a stigma among some of the characters, like in Shadows, right? In the Cassavetes movie, one of the characters talks about they're going to get a job, and the other characters are like, "What? This is like his family." Like they're like shaming him because he wants to get a job. It's like because they all just lived off the government. It was great. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially as tech controls more of the wealth, and the wealth is created by machines. The human element is going to be less and less necessary. And so, how are you going to keep 8 billion people employed other than as a service economy to the ultra rich? We're just going to be their servants. We're going to be waiters and personal assistants and interns and videographers and uh front desk clerks at hotels. Like we're gonna continue to cling on to this obsolete notion of like you have to do some job that like serves a function to something that makes money. It's like people are always gonna work. It's not like we're gonna prevent people from activity. But it's like, if you wanna invent things, if you wanna start a business, a lot of people wanna do that. A lot of people work, like my mom, she likes her job. It pays her bills and shit, but it's like, even if she got like a universal basic income, she'd probably still wanna do her job because she likes it. It's an interesting job for her, and, like, it's what she does, you know? Like you've gotta figure out ways to get people activated doing, like, what their nature is, like, what their calling is. That's the way the economy should be motivated, like, whatever people feel drawn to do. Like, that's not to say that everybody can necessarily make a living, quote, unquote, as, like, a musician or something, but that doesn't mean that they still shouldn't pursue it, and, like, it would be to the benefit, like during the pandemic, it would be to the benefit of everybody everywhere if, like, the world was full of local artists and kind of like small artists, quote unquote. There are no small artists, like that's something I've seen through open mic is like everybody's song is beautiful. They're all different, and that's part of what's important. And so allowing more of a public sphere for that, I think, is good. TikTok does that, but IRL, like during the pandemic, everybody was just playing guitar everywhere. There were just shows going on everywhere. There were, artists everywhere. Stand-up comedians were doing fucking shows in Washington Square Park. There was poetry readings outside everywhere. It was like uh the world should be like a museum city for everybody. Life should be like, if whatever people want it to be, unless that's like controlling other people and forcing them to work for you, which is those are the people that are control our society now because they have the gumption and the sociopathic lack of empathy to be driven to do that. They don't want everybody to just freely walk the earth and write poetry and vlog and stream and visit with their relatives and friends and eat and cook for each other and till the earth and permaculture and learn and spend time in libraries and at plays and doing sports. I'd love to play sports. I'm not anti-sports. Sports are fantastic. Sports are just as important as art. And I think they're like art, where like we're brainwashed into thinking that like the celebrity aspect is the only thing that matters. Like the only music that matters is celebrities. The only athletes that matter, the only sports that matter is professional. And it's like where it really lives is in these recreational leagues. Like every artist matters, like every musician, every fucking comedian, even the podcasts, even, if that's what you want to do, so be it. There's maybe value in it for somebody. You don't necessarily have to be fucking Mark Maron or Smartless or fucking, Rogan or something. Like, it's the world is better if it's at least as local, if the local is at least as powerful as the corporate. That, if we're gonna have both, because like maybe the corporate is important on some kind of international scale of like organizing things. Maybe it is important, or like just part of human nature to have a Walmart or a Starbucks, or to have that option for people if they want it, to have familiarity and like a uniformity. But there should also be, first of all, if those corporations, the problem is it just the all of the money that's made is given back to the shareholders and accrues to the people at the top. And that's why it drains the local economies. That's why when Walmart moves into a small town, it destroys it, because it's not giving back. It's not reimbursing. It's taking that money and giving it to the Waltons in fucking Arkansas. And tech is like that on an even worse scale because it's everywhere and it's Silicon Valley. It's Vivek Ramaswamy or Peter Thiel or just like the worst people. The fusion of capitalism and technology is really bad. Fascist capitalism and technology. And once again, that's why Steve Jobs was so important, because I think he had more of that kind of vision. He wanted to empower people to be creative. And because I don't know, I think being creative and playing sports, for that matter, it's just like these things get us in tap with ourselves. The arts are about the senses. The sports is about the senses and the body. I mean, they're all about everything, but uh it's good for us to do all of it, to play sports rather than watch sports. Everybody, when you become an adult, a lot of times you just think, well, the way I participate is I watch it. I never turned pro, so I just got to quit or whatever. It's like, no, join a softball league, join a football league, or whatever. I don't know, a fucking cornhole league, bowling. I don't know, pinball. To me, stage is like sports. Open mics are like my softball league or something. Ideally, I'd like to have both. I'd love to be in a softball league. If anybody out there, maybe we should start an Easy Paradise softball team. That's not a bad idea, actually. Easy Paradise softball team. I would in Central Park. We'll play the Broadway League. We'll play La Mama. We'll play Poetry Project. Do they have a softball team? We'll play the Inspired Word softball team. We need an open mic softball league, or dodgeball, or something. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. You want to be well-rounded as a human, right? And so the idea is like traveling, spending time with your friends. You want a Graydon Carter style lifestyle. You want to be able to go to Europe and study the museums and have the grand tour and eat the food and lay on the yacht and look at the frescoes and go to the open mics and hear the poets and meet the poets and be an ambassador for poetry from New York. That is important. I mean, travel's not for everybody. It's not mandatory. Maybe it is. Maybe there will be mandatory travel. Broaden your fucking horizons. There's a whole world out there outside of Grand Theft Auto 6 and Call of Duty maps. That's why you're not getting laid. Because you play video games all the fucking time. That's why Gen Z isn't having sex. Because they're playing video games. It's like, go to fucking Europe. Get some money somehow. Invest in fucking GameStop or whatever dumbass thing. To me, the GameStop thing just proves how fake the economy is. It's like if you get enough people to buy it, it becomes valuable. It's like that doesn't mean it has value. You can rig that. And I think a lot of it is rigged. I think the algorithm is rigged. The algorithm. The algorithm. I want to repeat that. The algorithm, it's rigged because it's rigged. 444. I'm going to get off pretty soon. Maybe I'll get off at 5 p.m. Yeah, that'll be a nice 3-hour sesh for people. I thought this was a great sesh. We covered a lot. Thank you for watching, Ashley. Oh, God. Any case, what else? This is just my utopian ideal. I know it'll never happen. The capitalists will keep cracking the whip. Slavery will just kind of morph into something a little bit more passively atrocious. It won't be so obviously inhumane. That's how it is now. It's still, the idea is not to get out of doing work, but it's like all of the things that I'm good at or that feed me or make me alive really make no money. And so society as a whole just looks at them as having no value or looks at them as like, I don't even know. But I know that there's value in it. Just because it's not some majority rule, like massive, popularity thing, that is a value of our society. That is one of the characteristics of our society is we think bigger is better. I guess it's because America is a democracy or something, and it's a big country. But it's like you need mass success. You need to be big. You need to be a big star. You need to sell a lot, sell records, have some big movie, big book, whatever it is. You need to be famous. You need to get a bunch of people to show up. You need to fill Madison Square Garden. But when there was gatekeeping, I don't know. Somehow things of quality got through. I don't know why. Why is it that the things of quality got through in the 60s? Maybe it's just in retrospect, it looks that way, but because time has sifted it out. But now it just feels like, I mean, particularly with social media, it's almost like it's like not necessarily like the worst stuff, but it's like there does have to be like this dumb, broad, you have to look like the majority of your culture or your this country looks or something. It's like if you're Shane, I think one of the reasons why Shane Gillis is popular, like Bert Kreischer or Tom, is because the audience looks like that. He looks like a guy that fucking was in a frat and gained 40 fucking pounds in college drinking beer and had a great time doing it and played Texas Hold'em. And it's like he probably knows some racist jokes. Maybe he did black topping or something. He did some kind of construction job. Bert Kreischer, looks like a beer drinking, take his shirt off. He doesn't, he's not Fred Astaire. They're not like unattainably like better than the audience or something. It's like they are somebody who is like almost like an interpreter for the audience or something. It's like, here, I'm Joe Rogan. I'm an everyman. I'm just like you. I like martial arts and cars. I'm skeptical about the government, like psychedelics. But he's gullible. And in fact, I think he doesn't like experts. I think there's a bias against anybody who knows what they're talking about, actually. It's like if you know what you're talking about, you're just kind of like a pest. Like, oh, it's just a fucking scientist. Oh, it's all these fucking scientists. They signed some fucking accord again about 300 scientists or 1,000 scientists. They all agree that we're fucked. Great. Fuck off. Let me drive my fucking Hummer. Or my Tesla. Teslas are probably worse for the environment. The batteries apparently are like very hard to dispose. They'll probably be like a complete catastrophe for the environment. How are they charging those chargers? Probably through coal power plants. They're burning a shitload of coal to power those electric cars. That's why we need to go nuclear. We need freedom cities where tech assholes can do whatever they want. They can experiment with nuclear power, and they can build their kind of like visionary empires, their principality kind of like nation states, city states that they'll rule over. The wizards of Silicon Valley, like Curtis Yarvin. I mean, just look at the guy. Anybody with fucking hair like that, Jesus Christ. That the charismatic leader always has fucking insane hair. But you can tell the difference between a good charismatic leader and a bad charismatic leader. Okay, it's not necessarily a bad. Speaking as a charismatic leader or wannabe, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just when it's like somebody who is just an asshole who doesn't know what they're talking about, like Curtis Yarvin or the Palantir. Is Curtis Yarvin the Palantir guy? Are they the same guy? Or is it are they two different guys? Let me look it up real fast. I'm fact checking. See? Like the New Yorker. We don't need that anymore. Oh no, Alex Karp. Alex Karp is a guy. He kind of looks like Curtis Yarvin. If you look up Curtis Yarvin and Alex Karp. Well, let me see. They have the same vibe, same energy, and it's not good. Maybe if you're on ketamine and you're an airhead, you think he's like, or you're just power hungry. I think his playbook appeals to, that I think the tech people see that they can do something the government can't do with crypto and shit like that. And they just want to just topple it and do it themselves. I think they just want to replace the government with their own systems and ideas about whatever that might be. Zuckerberg, all those people that were sitting there, I think they probably look at themselves as some kind of like new founding fathers. Elon, Zuckerberg, Musk, Tim Cook, Theo Vaughn. Jesus Christ. Was Curtis Yarvin there? No women. Was there anyone? Well, Lauren Sanchez, I think, was there. She's got serious Mar-a-Lago face. So I don't know. It's like we're guinea pigs or something. You know, it's like we're about to undergo some kind of experimental reboot. And it's probably going to be very bad because these people, like, just because you invented Facebook, like, that doesn't mean anything. It just means you were willing to exploit people and do whatever it takes. And like you invented like stalking. It's just like you codified stalking. I guess it was sort of an unprecedented way for human beings to congregate and to sort of like create this like network that's disembodied but is also there and like present and like alongside everything that we are actually doing. And in certain way, but then when they, the way that they want to intervene and control what we see and how that affects our personal relationships. Like, to be honest, I don't actually have any drama with anybody, but I feel like Instagram particularly is just like that's what it wants. It wants to like invent out of thin air like animosity between you and other people, and create jealousy. And it's like, look, these people are doing this. Look, these people are doing this. You're not involved. This person liked this, and they just want to press your buttons. The algorithm is incredibly personal and manipulative. They want to press your buttons. They have found out through market research, and it drives engagement, supposedly. And that's what I don't like about it. It just seems like that's how they want to do everything. They want to impose their order. It should be this way rather than go with like the flow of things. It feels like Apple, even though Tim Cook was there, the Steve Jobs days, with iTunes, it's like they sort of created a business model, right? 99 cents a song, and you download the song. Then Spotify came out and streaming, and there was no such thing anymore. I guess that's just the nature of the world and the free market. But it just feels like the tech companies should have more responsibility to the things that they're replacing or it's just like it's crazy because it's like there's so much power, there's so much money and sort of like glamour in a way. I mean, it's sad, but for millennials, for me, it's like I remember when I first moved to New York, Girls, that show was on the air. And I think on the show, like, isn't Christopher Abbott, he's like a startup guy. Like being in New York, being in a startup was like this exciting, that was like more exciting than being like in a band. It was like, oh, you're in a startup. It's like, fuck. They've got like an office with like a fucking foosball table and like a kitchen. Like these are like these millennials are like leading the way. College Humor felt like a startup even. I heard that the head writer of College Humor has been like he's like one of the writers, the principal writers of Saturday Night Live for the last decade. They just got the guy from College Humor. I never really loved College Humor. I never really liked it. But what do I know? It's like they had National Lampoon. We have College Humor. It's like it doesn't feel as good. Like National Lampoon had like a sophistication, it had like a wit. College Humor is just like beer pong and fucking it was almost like a precursor of Funny or Die. Do people know what College Humor is? To me, that's like peak millennial. How did College Humor not become Facebook? It was sort of a contemporary. They were kind of like both millennial college projects are geared toward that audience, by that audience, I guess. And College Humor was probably one of the first sites where I remember seeing like funny videos or something regularly before all of that shit just went into the apps. That's what I mean by monopolies. Like there aren't really websites anymore. It's just like you're an Instagram profile or something. You're a YouTube page. All right, I'm going to get going pretty soon. Thank you for watching. St. Patrick's Day on Monday. We're going to get shit housed. No, I made a playlist for it. Should be a fun time. I don't know. I'm anticipating maybe it will be not as busy because there's actually competition that day. There's probably a lot of things going on. Not that St. Patrick's Day is really a big fucking deal for anybody anymore, but it seems like there's probably going to be a lot of things going on. So I don't know. I always think that those holidays will be like a big fun thing for people to come out and celebrate, but it's usually like, well, no, there's other things going on, so they'll go and do that instead. Like Halloween, right? You'd think Halloween would be like, oh yeah, all these people want to come to the open mic, but it's like, well, they're already doing a million fucking Halloween things, and it's a Monday, and if it's actually Halloween on a Monday, which one year it was, it's like, well, they probably have other plans. They're not really gonna come to an open mic necessarily. Like that's one day where people just like party. Same with St. Patrick's Day. It's like, well, maybe you'll come to the open mic, but probably you'll go to fucking, I don't know, some kind of pub or some shit. I don't know, McSorley's or if you even give a fuck at all, which probably you don't. It's Purim, I think. Purim is like the beginning of spring. You can always tell the weather's about to get good again when Jewish people are outside in costumes with their crazy disco techno music. And I love that. I think that's great. To me, that makes perfect sense as a holiday. Great idea. Beginning of spring. Everybody dressed up like there were all these kids last night dressed up in like rabbit costumes. They were like in like these fur onesies. And play a bunch of crazy fucking techno disco. It's amazing. Boy. What was that guy's name? Disco Boy. I want to be a disco boy. What is that guy's name? Chantel, I think, right? Let me get Chantel. I'm always adding to the playlist. Like I said, I've got a St. Patrick's Day playlist. And being Irish, I feel, New York is an Irish city. It's something I think people kind of forget. But it was very Irish until probably, 50 years ago or something. And you still kind of see remnants of that. People like Colin Quinn or whatever. Hell's Kitchen still feels kind of Irish. There are certain pockets here and there. Disco Partigiani. There you go. Yeah, I gotta have that on the playlist. Chantel, adding Chantel to the playlist here. It's amazing, just like you're always just thinking of new songs. There's so many songs out there. There's always more songs. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. I'm about to sign off. Go back and watch from the beginning. I think this was a strong session from top to bottom. So I encourage people to go back and watch from the beginning. No chat. There's no chat on Scenes from a Life live stream. Just mansplaining. What the hell was the thing? Oh, yeah. St. Patrick's Day, Irish City, Macaulay Culkin, Kieran Culkin, good Irish boys. Great New York actors. I feel like Kieran Culkin would be maybe good to play me in a movie. Or I don't know. Maybe I'd be good in a movie with him or something. Yeah. Okay, what else? Is there anything else I need to say? Oh, now I got 3 people watching. See, once again, the algorithm is feeding me people because I've been on for 3 hours. It's just a damn shame. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like I said, go back to the beginning. Got a reading next Friday. I'm playing at Caffeine Underground next Saturday. I don't know if people have been seeing, but Caffeine Underground has been having this kind of incredible marathon where they're just doing shows all the fucking time because they're trying to raise money to buy it or something to save it. I think they're live streaming some of it. I encourage people to check that out. I think that's pretty cool. New York needs shit like that. New York should have big projects, big marathons, big ideas, big shows. I think that's really marvelous that Caffeine Underground has taken it upon themselves. Go back and watch my poetry reading. If you're watching this right now, go back and watch my poetry reading from House Party. Shout out to Gio and his excellent book launch. You can watch the entire second half on my YouTube page under the live streams. You can watch the open mic under the live streams. I'm doing vertical. How do people feel about the vertical? I'm embracing it. The fucking iPad will only do vertical. I can't change the orientation for some reason. So I've been embracing the vertical orientation, which feels, I don't know, I'm trying to be contemporary and hip. I think Gen Z is into that. You know, if you want to clip it now, it's like it'll fit your phone screen, which is probably what everybody watches everything on anyway. So I don't know. I like horizontal personally. I like this. I'm old fashioned, but I like a 185 to 1, I'd say. That's my fave. Maybe 1.66 to 1. Gosh, is there anything else? There's just been so many important topics that we've touched on and talked shit about. And there just needs to be more parity. That's what I feel is like the tech overlords aren't listening. There's no like harmonizing. You know, there's very few. I mean, Ted Sarandos is an example of somebody, I guess, who is like sort of like harmonized with the existing structure. Like Netflix became like the new prestige studio. All of the stars kind of like scrambled to get Netflix, partially because they were just spending so much fucking money. You know, for some reason, tech is able to manipulate the stock market and hype the stock market. I guess that's just the era we live in to be able to afford that kind of shit. You know, Netflix took out billions of dollars of loans literally to pay for content on the, you know, promise of money they were going to make and just like their number of subscribers and shit. And, we see how that's gone for them. Now it's just they put out a bunch of crap. I don't watch it anymore, but that's what John Mulaney's fucking show is on, his live stream. And apparently wrestling is on Netflix now. WWE is on Netflix. So they're trying. They're trying to basically steal the cable business, I guess. Which, I don't know. I liked it better when it was movies, but now they should just do better IP. That's kind of what's shocking about Netflix is I think they pay too much attention to the data. You know, that's part of the thing that drives me nuts about the tech-driven societies. It's so data obsessed. There's no just feel anymore. You know, it's like we're kind of doing things backwards. You know, it's like things like Tesla, those cars are just bad cars. They're not well designed. They drive poorly. You know, they're not practical the way they function. Like the Cybertruck really is not a safe vehicle to be in. Like it does not function as a truck. You cannot do anything that is like hard fucking work in a fucking Cybertruck. Like it will fall apart. Like that's like a metaphor for everything he does is like that. It's like it's not actually well made. It's just kind of imposed on us because he's rich and powerful and nobody can say no. It's his little dumbass kitty drawing he made that's engineers somehow have to turn into a reality. But it's like these things are just not well designed. It's like You see that with everything. It's like movies are bad now. They're sequels, they're remakes, they're fucking superhero movies. Music, not great. It's because everything is like data driven. It's like, well, what got the most streams? What got the most watch time? What got the most clicks? It's like, yeah, the stupidest shit. Like the worst stuff. It's like these people are in a position where like they can kind of impose what they want, but so they're still an establishment. People think they're like tearing down the establishment through like these tech people because they're destroying like the legacy media. It's like, no, there's just a new establishment and they're worse. It's Bezos, and these are not media people. That's the thing. It's like Zuckerberg is not really like a content guy. He's just a stalker who wanted to look at women without having to talk to them because he's a fucking scared or something. He's a wimp. But like that's the establishment. It's not like the establishment got destroyed with the legacy media because MSNBC died. It's like, no, like now the message is Elon Musk, it's like, okay, there's no newspapers. There's no New York Times, fucking New Yorker fired their journalists, but Elon Musk owns goddamn Twitter. That is the fucking media. That's where all of the writers are, or Substack or whatever. There's a link to their Substack on Twitter. It's like, that's just a shift. There's just been a shift of like all of the power, all of the money from, I guess, New York monoculture, legacy, whatever, Washington, to like so-called libertarian MAGA, whatever, tech people that want to basically shoehorn themselves into total control. And they just have bad ideas. That's what sucks about it, is like they impose their vision because they are the owners and they are inside the computer, maybe in a way that we're not. We're just we're in a consumer role because I don't know how to fucking program anything. I don't want to. I just want to turn my camera on and run my fucking mouth and make vlogs and shit and write chat books. And so the computer is just a tool for me to do that, really. I don't want it to consume my life or even be that much a part of it. It's just sort of another space among many. The notebook, the open mic, the social setting, whatever it is. And so I don't know, with things like the legacy media and the monoculture, I don't know. It was a more human system. Those people got where they were by handshakes and face-to-face meetings. This is something I wanted to talk about, is like another reason why I think people are so unhappy and isolated is because everybody's afraid to talk on the fucking phone. Everything is a fucking text message or an email, which, like, to be honest, it's just like, it's a very passive aggressive form. You can read a lot into text messages and there's a brevity to it. There's a timing aspect to it. Where like on the phone, it's like, it's sort of unmistakable. It's like you're spending time, you're getting vocal intonations, you're getting that kind of human element that like it's just more information. And you can say more, you can inflect it. Text, it's a lot, things can go awry very easily. Whereas like on the phone, it's not that hard to maintain like, an understanding with each other. And you can just get things solved quick. And so, I mean, that's just another aspect of like screen culture, right? Is like we're isolated and we're more involved with that in the kind of Spike Jones her scenario than we are. So that's made us like afraid of face to face to some degree. And so I think that has added to like depression, animosity between people, anxiety. The text messages and the email is just so sinister and it's so like foreboding. It's like doom scrolling. There's like a phone call, there's like a warmth to it, there's a conviviality to it. And I think people prefer to be alone or something. It's easier because it's more like comfort zone. or like our, I don't know. I think people's comfort zone maybe used to expand more. Maybe people used to be better at small talk or occupying common space. I think media and technology probably has pried people apart in particularly in America. TV, and now the computer and the smart TV and the phone, which is like a little smart TV that goes with you everywhere. It's like you control the little fiefdom of your personal social world through this little device, and you can just call upon whatever you need. If it's a taxi, if it's a fucking, Tinder date, if it's Grubhub. And so why engage with anybody? Why call? I remember when I was in high school, I would get terrified to call Pizza Hut because I'd be afraid to talk to the person. I'd be like, fuck, what am I going to say? What am I going to say to the guy at Pizza Hut? It's like, what could be more a low stakes conversation than like ordering food? But I think people don't even want to do that anymore. They would rather go through Grubhub than like call a phone number because they're like, their social anxiety. Like, and to be honest, I just think people are too choosy about who they talk to. People think they can be really picky, and they're just like not a part of like the convivial fabric of everything. And I don't really like that. It's like you're a part of the commons. It's like we're all on the subway. You're not above anybody. And that's a problem on the left, I think. People on the left think, well, those people, I don't want to talk to them because they're disqualified for X, Y, or Z reason. And they're very picky about who they engage with. And I don't know. I just think there needs to be more kind of conviviality and sharing and like small talk, chit chat. I know I'm not good at it, but that's half the open mic, right? Is the bonding and making friends. That's what's really important. And that's part of local culture. When you go to like some concert in an arena or something, it's just like, oh, okay, there's the god on stage. They're untouchable. In the open mic, there's like a circulation of attention, and everybody's kind of on an even playing field, and you make friends. You see somebody, it's almost like a preview of their personality, and you think, oh, that person seems cool or talented or whatever. I want to talk to them. It gives you an easy way to talk to them. That's part of the beauty of open mics. I guess it probably attracts social people or people that are used to like putting themselves out there, because getting on stage is scary, and like especially when you have to sit through hours and spend money and be around strangers and blah blah blah. It's like that's not the least anxious way to get on stage. Waiting your turn all night, nervous all night. But it's also like an invitation to say hello to people or to meet people, which I think is a real problem today, particularly among Gen Z and these incels and shit or whatever. It's like they don't know how to fucking meet people. It's like, well, you got to leave your house. You got to leave your fucking Xbox. Sorry. You have to leave the PS5 at home. You have to go and just sit there. Just go out and sit in a bar, talk to people, strike up conversation, whatever. All right. Well, I've gone into overtime here. This is like overtime with Bill Maher. I was only going to do 3 hours, but here we are. I'm in overtime now. There's just too much to talk about. There's too many things to fix. I've got 4 people watching. God damn it. YouTube knew I was going to get off, so it fed me viewers. It just feeds them in one at a time. Here, try this. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. 4 is enough. Let's see how he does with 4. If he can build on that, if he gets more likes with that and more engagement and watch time with that, then we'll feed him a few more. It's like you gotta hit these plateaus before they show your video to more people. So, it's all about quality. You got to make quality content. Excuse me, I'm an artist. I don't give a fuck if anybody sees it. There's power in existence, and you never know what the fuck people are watching or what effect it's going to have, what kind of ripple it's going to make, man. Oh, yeah, I should talk a little bit about the gig on Tuesday. We had our, Young Ethel's gig. Shout out to Young Ethel's. I know they hate me. The bartender really did not look happy afterwards. He looked like it was weird. He looked like embarrassed for me or something. Maybe they heard what I was saying on the microphone. I'm sorry for anybody that thought it was like bad energy. To me, it was just like it was important to just get the ball rolling, to just get out there, do some extracurricular stuff. I thought it was, that's how this stuff always goes. Is like at the time you're like kind of pissed about it because nobody showed up. I mean, to be fair, I only released the flyer like the Friday before. I don't understand that everybody else, like every other person plans differently. Me, it's like I always do everything in the moment. I have to wait to the last minute to do anything. That's just I don't know. That's just how I work. That's like my momentum, I guess. It's like I need that last minute kind of like wall to go up against to push me upwards or something. But it's like when you're doing these events, you really got to promote them like weeks in advance. Me, I just want to book something and play. I want to play. I've got the itch. It's like I booked this event 2 weeks ago. I didn't know exactly what the bill was going to be, so I didn't make a flyer. But it's like you just need to be organized. You need to it's a lot of emails. And flyers are just like, they're so painful because nobody likes my flyers and just like, so I'm embarrassed to even do them. And yet I'm not going to get somebody else to do them because, like, who the fuck would I get to do them? I don't even know who's on the bill. And so, shout out to Jason T. Cucker. My man showed up. That was cool. Larry came from upstairs. That was cool. And then, somebody else from the open mic. I'm sorry. I don't, it was, Minin, Noah Minin or something like that, I think is who it was. I could be wrong. Which was really nice. So it's like it's not like nobody showed up. There was probably 10 people in the room. But like to be honest, like it's kind of discouraging because I did an event there a couple summers ago. And we had probably 20 people come out. I had Dose Cowboys, right? And they brought like a bunch of their friends and they all were having a good time and drinking and stuff. And the bar sent me an email afterwards that was like, yeah, you didn't spend any money and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's not exactly true. Like, we had some people come out. I mean, granted, it was like a Saturday night. It wasn't packed, but it was like, it wasn't nobody. It's like, and so I don't know. That was kind of like discouraging where I was just like, you know what? Why even do this? Like, I had some people come out and they didn't even give a fuck. And so, like, this is kind of a waste of time. If they're not even going to appreciate it, they're just going to get mad at me. It's like, yeah, I'd love it if the fucking place would be packed too. It's like they didn't share the flyer till the day of. But to be honest, it got blocked because of copyright, because of the projections. Winger. I've said it once, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Hair metal bands are the worst for copyright infringement. And so the Winger video, now it's like blocked. I can't even post it. But I do have it on my YouTube. And I got to say, the Bathtub Nebula was pretty dope. That guitar sounded great. That Telecaster, dude, get yourself a Fender like 15-watt practice amp. That's as good a tone as you're going to find anywhere. Those things just sound good. They got a nice kind of bite, lean, kind of hot rail sound that I like. And that was my signature sound before my amp broke at the beginning of the Holy Smokes journey. It's been downhill. Shit's just, more shit's just breaking ever since. I'm going to get off pretty soon. There's one last thing I want to say. What the hell is it about? Oh yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the event. So yeah, at the time it was like kind of dark energy. I don't know why. It's just like it became Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf like that. uh so I didn't mean to bring a bunch of people into like, you know, a negative energy, but I actually thought it was Logan X was amazing. Kuzu Daddy was amazing. Yeah, the projections were cool until they blocked us. It was fun to play with Ashley. We did some interesting things I did some pretty interesting things on piano. And then, the Bathtub Nebula, I thought I got to some really interesting things on guitar as well. So, it's one of those things that like at the time you're just like, fuck. What a what a this is but I'm used to playing gigs with nobody there. I don't know what that says. Is that a quality issue? Is that a promotion issue? I mean, Young Ethel's, I love the venue. I love the way that they just kind of I love that they have a projector and a smart thing, but I don't know. It's not it's kind of out on a limb. I should probably book something like in Williamsburg or some shit somewhere up there, Bushwick, I don't know. Maybe people would come out to that. Maybe if it was at Bar Freda or something, or Heart Bar. Maybe I should do a show at Heart Bar. Or what's that place they were doing? Star Bar. Maybe do Star Bar. Oh God! See, I'm OCD, so I have to do 3.5 hours now. I'm gonna do 3:30, and that's gonna be it. Oh, I should have left already though. It's getting too late. I gotta leave. Thank you for watching, everybody. Um, yeah, so in retrospect, I think the gig was a positive experience. Actually, I just we're trying to get the rust off about doing other shows. Like I need to book. I realize that that's an important part of the process, regardless of who the fuck shows up. You know, and I think the people and with the people involved, and there, like I said, there were a couple people that showed up, so it's like it was still a ritual among friends and meaningful. And it was yeah, it was almost like a dress rehearsal or an out of town preview. You're kind of working the kinks out. You're going to whatever, the Long Wharf or the Long Acre or Philadelphia or Boston or whatever the fuck, to just sort of, work through it in front of an audience, get out and just get out there, just get that energy going. It's springtime, it's Purim, St. Patrick's Day. This is the breaking of the new year. And so we got to kind of this winter has been this, it's like we've been frozen in carbonite. It's been this deep freeze. And so we got to break out of that, and we just got to get things moving. We got to get active. We got to get on the offensive politically and just every which way, in our lives, in our poetry, in our friendships. We just got to make the scene and be out there and organizing and staying strong and batting the ball and putting the word out. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. And watch the open mic. It's streaming Monday nights, 9 p.m. from New York City. Good night, everybody. And God bless.